the mayor
Much
here?
more fun.
She is.
Are you, Madam Mayor?
Who's giving the prayer? He's going to do a burn prayer.
So a little bit left at the back.
On her knees.
Essentially, the other trays.
Before you stand up and do the prayer statement, please kneel. Madam Mayor, it's 6:01.
It is.
It is.
Dare you?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Tuesday, August 7th, regular City Commission meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mayor Pam Triola.
Here.
Vice Mayor Andy Amoroso.
Here.
Commissioner Scott Maxwell. Absent for the roll. Commissioner Omari Hardy.
Here.
Commissioner Herman Robinson. Here. Thank you.
If everyone would please rise for the invocation on behalf of Commissioner Robinson, followed by the pledge.
We gather to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. Amen.
Commissioner Hardy, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all so much for being here. We are moving on to additions, deletions, or reordering. Anyone?
Madam Mayor, the presentations tonight have all been moved to a date uncertain at this point.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Then we'll move on to Commission Liaison Reports and Comments. Commissioner Hardy?
Sure. I'll start with mine. Yesterday I was at Tropical Ridge Neighborhood Association, as I usually am every first Monday. We had some good conversations about Highland Elementary, about the traffic at 10th Avenue and North 8th Street. We had some conversations about code enforcement, and we also had some conversations about parking enforcement within our neighborhood, which is happening on a regular basis for the first time ever, as far as I can tell. So that's a good thing. The other thing is today I partook of a conference call with the Housing Leadership Council. We had a good, long, interesting discussion about how to finance projects within the opportunity zones. For those of you who don't know, the recent tax legislation created the opportunities for investors to put money into certain opportunity zones, areas that have high poverty that really are underinvested in. These investments would not be taxed on their capital gains as long as they stay within the opportunity zones for a period of time. Obviously, we have an opportunity here because we had several census tracts that we submitted to the governor for consideration for these. We got one approved as a opportunity zone, and so I'm hopeful that some of the discussion that we had today we can use to get some dollars here into the city of Lake Worth. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Yes, I attended the Palm Beach County League of Cities. I sit on their board. I also attended the Sober Home Task Force board, and we actually have another meeting this Thursday, the Sober Home Task Force. I will be attending as a board member of the Florida League of Cities coming up on the 16th in Hollywood, Florida. I also want to take a moment and thank Commissioner Dave Kerner for reappointing me to the BDB, which is the Business Development Board for Palm Beach County. And I want to remind everyone that we are taking Evening on the Avenues off for the summer. We had our last movie night last Friday, and we will be bringing it back as Lake Worth Block Party starting in October. It will be on Lake Avenue between Dixie and Federal. There'll be car shows and bike shows and vendors and music and all kinds of great things. It'll be the first Friday of every month, and then we are moving the food truck invasion to the last Friday of the month. And it will not compete with the bonfires on the beach. Bonfires on the beach will be coming back, so there'll be some great things going on up at the beach and great things going on downtown come season starting in October. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Robinson.
I was up the Highland Elementary School cleanup and planting day. It was good to see the turnout there. Went to the NAPC meeting, and they're always looking to the future. The visioning session isn't ever over, or should never be over. It's, I encourage all our citizens to look to the future and what they would want our community to be like. I want to thank the people that participate in the boards and recognize that the neighborhood association volunteers are just as committed to our city. Disappointed the red light is still on 10th Avenue. Maybe all the engineering that goes on there will be able to recognize that the backup can be eliminated by a yield sign. That's it for me.
All right, thanks, guys. I'll keep it short and sweet. The TPA, formerly known as the Metropolitan Planning Organization, they have not met. They canceled their July meeting, and they normally don't do an August meeting, so I won't be back there until September, where we are actually the host at the Casino Ballroom. So give everyone a chance to see our beautiful beach and be totally jealous and envious of it. What else has been going on? I actually had to travel out of town. I want to thank you guys for covering up some of the stuff that I normally would be doing. My dad had an operation, but it was minor and everything is good for people that were concerned. I want to thank you all for reaching out. And I'm back in the saddle here. Had a wonderful meeting, actually on the radio on WZZR. This is the second group of real estate people that asked me to come on and talk about Lake Worth. They're getting a lot of calls from people and homeowners and families and commercial businesses and all kinds of entities. Apparently we have the it factor finally. And so a lot of people wanting to know what all the hubbub is about, and they've invited me to come speak. I got to be on the air for 2.5 hours or 2 hours or something like that. So thank you for those who called in and made me feel at home. And lots of good stuff coming. So I'm looking forward to this meeting tonight. Thank you to everyone who came to the visioning session. As Commissioner Robinson said, it's an ongoing process. But it was really nice to sit down with my fellow commissioners too and just talk about things and get it all out on the table and what ideas and, you know, we have a lot of stuff going on in our minds, and because of sunshine laws, we're not able to sit and just talk like in a normal business. You would say, hey, we're making all these executive decisions. Let me bring in all my corporate managers so we can have a conversation about that. Everything that we do is normally set on an agenda, and we're shoved, you know, to kind of give our opinion in 30 seconds or less and come and make a decision. So the visiting session was really a good opportunity. I invite any of you who haven't listened to it to maybe give a listen to it. It wasn't astronomically, you know, inspiring, but it was the start of some really good conversations that we all need to have together. So you're all part of the visiting process too, and I'm very, very grateful. All right, moving on. Public participation of non-agenda items. I do see some new faces. So if later on the agenda you have something that you want to talk about, i.e. the public hearings or new business, you want to fill out a separate card for those items if you'd like to speak. If not, this is your time to talk and bring up any item that you'd like to that's not on the agenda. So fill out a card. Please state your name and your address, just for public records purposes. And come on up, Ruby Bell, followed by John Faust.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Unfortunately, my presence here this evening isn't necessarily about pleasing things in our community. In fact, my family and I that decided to make Lake Worth our home more than 10 years ago find ourselves in front of the magistrate 2 weeks ago in front of a hearing of which Commissioner Amoroso and Commissioner Robinson were in attendance. I did find it a bit discerning to hear from Commissioner Robinson that he was there for entertainment purposes, and I'm hoping that that was a joke.
If you would just direct it towards me, please. I'm sorry. We can't call out any other commissioners. I get to take it all. I get to take in all the love.
We love Lake Worth. We love a lot of the things that are taking place, but there seems to be a great non-discretion, totally out of left field where code enforcement is concerned. My family we're still dealing with damage to our home from Irma, and we have a tarp on our roof. We have an attorney, and first we also had a public adjuster. At the same time, I have had to pursue from the city to do something about stormwater from coming down my drain, down my driveway and flooding my garage. So on one end, the city has now had close to 2 years and has done nothing about the stormwater. On the other hand, I've had a tarp on my roof since the end of October, and this is the amount of time that I'm getting, where I'm about to be fined on a daily basis. And the city is advising me that perhaps by the end of the year, they'll have this issue taken care of and my garage will no longer flood. As well, I was supposed to have received documentation after the magistrate hearing. I contacted code enforcement. They advised, oh, I essentially hadn't been present, but I have two commissioners that are very aware that I was and that my visit had just been rescheduled. So I would really like from the city's attorney that documentation, because this is now a court matter. It's not just a citation that's ended up on my door, because it will go to the 15th Judicial Circuit and be filed there. And if I had not been present, I'm sure that the city's attorney would have deemed a default judgment, so, because I had been properly notified.
Thank you. City Attorney, would you see to that in the break, please?
We'll look into that.
Thank you. John Faust?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commission. John Faust, Downtown Jewel President, and once again, the President of the President's NAPC Neighborhood Association President's Council. Want to quickly give you a recap of our 17th annual Great American Raft Race. We had dozens and dozens of awesome volunteers this year. We have some wonderful people moving in and stepping up, and there's just actually let's go to the Raft Race Committee real quick. Myself, Marshall Pass, Anna Maria Windish Hunt, Craig Frost, and also Ashley and Ellie, and also Lindy White-Cito from College Park made up the Raft Race Committee this year. A lot of energy there. I want to acknowledge our sponsors real quick. Lake Worth Herald, Coastline Realty, Skyline Property Management, Compass Community Center, the Zoo Health Club, Matthews Brewing, Holt Lazyland, the Potty Doctor, Car Clinic, CWS, the City of Lake Worth, Lilo's, Seafood and Bar, or Street Food and Bar, Amelia's Smarty Plants, South Florida Marine, and a couple special recognitions to Bluefront Barbecue, the Mad Hatter, the Beach Club, and Benny's on the Beach. Other special recognition, the artists for our t-shirt art, the mayor, the commissioners, all of them, the city staff, PBSO. Special thanks to the mayor and the city manager for our Celebrity Bartender Day. An extra special acknowledgement for Benny's on the Beach. They hosted one of the pre-game parties and also a really excellent after party last Sunday afternoon. Crazy good food and a champagne toast. And I also want to, of course, volunteers and neighbors like you. So next year, look for probably no new rules, but new guidelines. I know we had lots of controversy this year. And
I say nothing.
let me read off my list of award recipients. This year, the President's Cup went to Bryant Park. The Trash Talk Trophy went to Pineapple Beach. The Paddle went to the Cava Pirates. Crowd Pleaser Trophy went to South Palm Park. First Timers went to the Smith Family Sunset Ridge. The Run Aground Trophy went to Eden Place. The Best Decorated Trophy went to Eden Place. Best Performance went to College Park. And the top place Grunge Cup Trophy went to Pineapple Beach. So I know a lot of those people are here right now. Please stand up, show your trophies, be acknowledged. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, folks, approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
Did some,
Is this for
Thank you.
non-agenda items?
I think it might be, if you want to.
For non-agenda items or an agenda item? Do you know? Non-agenda?
I thought he was going to bring it.
Come on up. That was my last card, the other one.
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Stephan. I live at 142 Bryn Mawr. At 2:45 today, I received a notice that they were to start paving our street tomorrow. Well, there are numerous residents. It seems like everyone on my street's unemployed, so we're always out and about. regardless, I'm on behalf of 6 families that contacted me. We're on the group phone. We want curbs. Now, we sent emails to Jamie Brown. I was hoping he'd be here this evening. We sent photographs of the other streets and so forth. We're preparing to do a commission, only because we such late notice. It would, unfortunately, we couldn't have brought it here tonight. But I intend to have a petition from our neighbors in Jamie's office tomorrow. But we really do need curbs on our streets. They're not intending to put them in. Now, most of the residents that I'm talking with did vote in for the street paving. We were for it, and we are in agreement with it, and we're willing to pay the taxes. All of the residents that I'm conversing with have lived on my street for over 15 years, so it's not like we just moved in and are unaware of it. I don't really know who we speak with or how we get these the curbs put in. We do not currently have a raised curb, nor do we have sidewalks. So I don't know how that affects it.
Mary's your phone number on here?
Sure. You'll take care of it, city manager? Okay. The city manager will be in touch with the appropriate staff. Okay, thank you. Any more public comment cards?
I thought we were going to get to see the trophy.
Are there any more public comment
There's a bunch
cards?
of trophies behind me.
City manager, are there any more public comment?
That's
cards?
it, Madam
One?
Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe the mayor can direct the.
We housed the grudge.
I don't even want to see that trophy. No.
We housed the grudge.
We should have a
Let's see those
trophy.
trophies.
Would you stop?
We have,
Yay!
we'll keep that one at City Hall if you want.
I'm not mad at them.
We kept it last year.
Colorful pirates, that's what I call it.
Wow, very nice.
I'm not mad at Pineapple Beach.
That's a photo. Yeah.
Looks like the Frost family is well represented.
That's for trash talking for next year.
I think this pineapple is right where
Yeah.
No, good job.
Good
You've
job.
added to it. That's a nice touch.
It's welded on there.
While I was here last year, I actually opened it up and put something in it.
Quiet in the chambers. Quiet in the chambers.
Sorry.
Quiet on the dais. Public participation. Okay, we did that. Approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Let's move right on to public hearing 10A, resolution number 45-2018, abandoning the right-of-way of former alleyway to Dixie Capital Partners LLC.
So moved.
Seconded.
Is there anything, anyone needs to do a presentation on it? Just alleyway.
Do you need
I
to read
saw-
them? No, it's just a resolution.
No, it's just a resolution.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to new business, 12A, City Attorney, would you read the ordinance, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, ordinance number 2018-11 of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, amending Chapter 16, Pensions and Retirement, Article 2, Employees Retirement System, Section 16-26, Participation in the Pension Plan, Section 16-27, Vesting Credits, 16-29, Pension Benefits, Section 16-33, Severance Benefits, and Section 16-35, Benefit Level, creating new sections 1644, 1645, 1646, 1647, 1648, 1649, and 1650 to create a cash balance plan in addition to the existing benefit structure, to enhance certain provisions of the existing benefit structure, and to provide a one-time option for specified employees to remain in the existing benefit structure. Reference severability, the repeal of laws in conflict, codification, and an effective date.
Thank you.
So moved.
Seconded.
Seconded. Lauren, would you step forward, please? Yes. Thank you. This is a first reading, so I want to have some background information so those in the audience and those at home can understand the issue.
Okay, so I didn't expect everything to go so fast. Okay.
We didn't have our presentation, so.
For those in the audience, I'm Lauren Slade. I'm the Director of Human Resources for the City of Lake Worth. I inherited an issue with the pension. There was an issue where there were some changes made that the employees weren't happy with. So we started negotiating when I first started.
Could you speak
I
a
think-
little bit closer
Yeah,
to
come
the
on,
microphone?
closer to the
Sorry.
mic, there you go.
Or, yeah.
So I think I'm the third HR director to be working on this. We finally came to some resolution. We negotiated with the PEU.
Yeah, could you hold it in your hand, maybe?
Is it maybe not turned on?
No, it's turned on.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Okay. No?
Put it right up in front of your
Can you
face.
tap it for me? It's working. You just
Okay.
need to talk a little bit louder, please.
Okay. So I think I'm the third HR director that worked on this. So
You
I'm
are.
very excited that we finally came to some resolution. We've been negotiating with the PEU and PMSA unions for about a year and a half. So this is the compromise that we came to, and there are three parts to it. So for any employees, any IBEW union was not interested in the changes. We approached them, they said, no, thank you. So this will apply to any non-IBEW employees in the city of Lake Worth, general employees. So any employees, any of the general employees and the PU PMSA employees hired before 10/1/10 will have three changes. They will have a pension multiplier starting 10/1/10 of 2.25, that's up from 2.0. They'll have the rule of 80, and that means your age and your years of service, if they equal 80, you are able to fully retire with a full benefit. And they changed the vesting from a 20-year vesting to 10, just for that group of employees. So anyone after 10/1/10 to up to 9/30/18, they'll have a choice of the current pension plan or cash balance plan. And it's a 5-5-5 cash balance plan. It's kind of confusing for anyone who doesn't know what a pension plan looks, or what a cash balance plan is. It looks from the outside like a 401 almost. So employees contribute 5%, the city contributes 5%, and the city guarantees a 5% rate of return. It's portable, it's immediate vesting, so it's a nice option. So employees will have a choice, the current employees will have a choice of the cash balance plan or the old plan. And then effective 10/1, all new employees will go into the cash balance plan.
Now, this has been going on for at least, what, 8-10 years?
Probably.
Okay, because I know that. And can you just tell everybody how many employees this affects, that are about how many?
I want to say roughly, if we carve out IBW, probably roughly about 200.
Okay. Questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Very excited.
I'm so
Well
happy
done.
to come to a positive resolution.
I really think it's positive for everybody. We've had educational sessions. We will continue to have educational sessions so employees understand their choices. We created a tool so they can put in their own data and figure out what's best for them. And I'm excited. I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Yes.
Great.
Commissioner Robinson?
And it's an incentive, it's competitive with other municipalities.
Actually, I think it's better.
It's-
It's a great recruiting. It's a novel idea in the public sector. I think we're the only municipality, local municipality that offers it. Corporate, I've seen corporate America do this, but I have not seen it in the municipal arena.
Lake Worth first.
Yes,
Good.
I'm excited about this. I think it's going to be great for recruiting.
Lauren, thank you to your
Well,
staff
thank
as
you.
well, too. I know this has been going on for an awful long time, and thank you to everyone involved on all sides of the equation. I'm glad to put this to rest and have a positive resolution, so thank you.
Me too.
Thank you very much. We've got a motion on the floor in a second. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Sorry, I didn't ask you for any cards. Was there a card on that?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, just for the record, seeing there are none, and we had the vote, so the vote is good. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 12B, presentation of conceptual design concepts for the Lake Worth Casino Beach Complex improvements. City Manager, did you want to start?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Mayor and Commissioners, just sort of to refresh everybody's memory, I like to start some of these meetings with putting some things into context, and probably the most important thing when we have a conversation about the beach at any time, we need to remind everyone that the city and the commission is very much aware of what the charter says about the beach. So I thought I would quote from that again and start off with that. Under Article 2, Section 3 of the city's charter, city-owned property east of the A1A roadway shall not be declared surplus property and shall not be sold, hypothecated, conveyed, or leased except for a lease of less than 20 years without the affirmative vote of a majority of the electors of the city of Lake Worth at a properly noticed and scheduled referendum. In other words, we as the city cannot sell or lease longer than 20 years unless it goes to ballot. So all the things we're discussing here has actually been an evolution of trying to fix some problems that have existed since we've opened the beach back up after the casino was refurbished and the park was redone. And we knew that there were certain things that weren't functioning well. So that sets the context for where we are today. And with that, I'd like to have Juan Ruiz, the Assistant City Manager, pick up from there and dive into the
So once again,
presentation.
the beach can.
The beach cannot be sold.
One more
We're
time?
not suggesting that we're
Oh,
selling the
okay.
beach.
Thank you. Just want to make sure it's on the record there. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Juan Ruiz, Assistant City Manager for the record. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for the opportunity to bring this project forward, Phase 1, of what should be, and I think we all agree will be a long process. Before we get started, I want to thank Chris Zimmerman, CPZ Architects, and his team. They're scattered all throughout the room today. I do want to lay a couple just ground rules. I know, Mayor, this is your meeting, with all respect. We do have hard copies of the presentation that we're going to hand out after we get done with the presentation. And we have copies for each of you to take home with you to digest. There's a lot of information going to be thrown at you. But again, it's a process of going through, reviewing, looking at different options. So by no means feel rushed that tonight we have to make a final decision on a final concept, because you're going to get thrown a lot of stuff in one short meeting.
Where do these concepts come from?
These concepts are all originated from a couple of different things. Number one, and most importantly, the public charrette that we had a tremendous amount of public participation at, that was held by CPZ at the Hatch, and also with, from one-on-one meetings with the commissioners, and then obviously from staff. We had a big kickoff meeting at the beginning of the process. So from that point on, staff has really stayed out of it. This is really about public input, the owners, the residents of this fine city. And I think what you're going to see is all those thoughts and ideas on paper. But again, they can also be adjusted. I think you're going to see a menu of a lot of different things. They're interchangeable like Legos. But the one thing that doesn't change is there's a cost to it. And with that being said, I want to give you guys a quick overview of where we're at as far as the sales tax
Vice Mayor,
process goes.
excuse me.
I just had a quick question. How come we're getting the hard copies after the meeting? It would be more helpful to take notes on the hard copies.
Well, your copies are really big. We got you 11 by 17s, and we really didn't want you guys to flip ahead of the presentation because Chris is going to cover a lot of ground. If you feel more comfortable, we'll hand them out. But we really wanted you guys focused on the presentation that Chris is going to be providing. But we can definitely...
Well, I personally like to make notes on the copy where it needs to go versus putting it here and trying to match it and remind myself where it goes.
All right, we'll hand those out before we get going. As far as the public goes, we'll hand those out afterwards at the end of the meeting.
Everybody, you feel that way?
What, to have a copy? I'm fine either way, whatever you guys prefer.
I don't need a copy. I'd rather just
Would-
hear the presentation.
Since we're going to hold off questions and answers to the end of Chris's presentation, then what if we hand them out before we start Q&A? Kind of split that in half. Is that okay? All right.
Can I have my copy?
We'll move on.
Vice Mayor is.
All right.
Can I have a copy, please?
Give him his copy.
All right. As far as the sales tax,
Nobody else wants them, don't take them.
as far as an overview of the sales tax goes, year to date, we've collected $3.7 million. We're projected for the end of FY18 to collect about 2.6, almost 2.7 million. And
Can you hold on one second, because
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
shuffling around, and I don't want some of these details, which are very important, to go overlooked, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
that's it. We're good.
All
Thank
right,
you.
can you start back?
Yes.
Can I
Yes, ma'am.
rewind you?
Because I'm wound up.
There you go.
You are wound up.
Everything is important. I don't want to miss anything.
So before we move forward, I just want to give you guys a quick update of where we're at and the sales tax.
Oh, can you hold on 1 second, please?
Are you doing 30 minutes?
For this presentation, our discussion, 30 minutes, not the presentation itself.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. A quick update on sales tax and where we're at year to date. We are projected to collect about 2.7, just a little bit under 2.7 for this fiscal year. And our projection right now over a 10-year period is to collect close to 24 million, and we're able to leverage as far as loaning against it for about the tune of about 18.4. So that's an important number to keep in the back of your minds as we go through this process, and also subsequent meetings when we talk about parking, roads, and whatnot. There's still the intent, obviously, of us coming back and doing a sales tax workshop to talk about what to do with the money. But this project, we did arise at this point from the first initial sales tax workshop, and that's why I'm providing you guys just kind of an update of where we're at as far as the finances go.
May I also just reference one thing too? When you and I had our discussions earlier, there are other sources of revenue for this, which we're not going to be talking about in this presentation. This is just simply an aesthetic presentation of ideas that both the public and the commission, whatever, came up with. So I just
That's
wanted to
correct.
make sure that people understand that that's not the only
That's correct.
source of revenue for them.
Yeah, tonight we're not gonna get into a deep dive as far as how to finance any option that you're looking at. We're simply looking at design concepts and probable project cost estimates.
I just want to, I'm stating that for the record, just for a
Correct.
reason that you guys want to get into funding sources on it. It's already been discussed to me that that information is not available on these discussions. These are simply ideas and then the actual costs, I'm sorry, not actual costs, but projected costs with a buffer.
That's correct.
Okay. Vice
All
Mayor?
right.
For the record, I'm concerned that we're talking about the penny sales tax as a funding option, but we're not talking about any other future funding options because we're not talking about that, but you've already put in the backup that an option is the penny sales tax. When we had our first 3 things we'd like to see the penny sales tax on, the beach was not one of them.
Correct.
So, we're having a conversation tonight about a funding source, but we can't talk about any of the other funding sources, so I'm a little
The beach was
confused.
mentioned.
The beach was mentioned, but it was not in that, but now we're talking about the only funding source in the package is the penny sales tax. But there are possibly other options, but we're not talking about them.
Vice Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. I want to echo the comments of the Vice Mayor. I think it was perhaps premature, maybe irresponsible to even throw that down here. We're here to find out what these proposals look like, and if there is a price tag associated with it, then tell us what the price is. But to put that number out there, it potentially creates false expectations on the part of some people, and it just makes the process a lot more complicated. And as was mentioned by Commissioner Robinson, this was not a top priority as far as the very high-level conversation about the potential use of sales tax monies. So I don't want to find us in a situation thinking you've got X amount of dollars available to us that we can leverage, and that folks want to go out and spend it all on the beach. Okay, I am absolutely not going to go down that road. So, I think we've kind of tarnished already the presentation by putting a number out there that may be available to us to fund whatever we're going to hear tonight. So I just want to, for the record, let you know that I'm not terribly happy about.
If I might, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
and I think some
City
of the
Manager?
I think some of the confusion has been in our one-on-one conversations. There's been questions that I've received. Why haven't we talked about the sales tax and the beach project as well as some other things? And my response has been consistent that until we have all the data about the various options really thrown out there, it's hard for you to have a conversation about the sales tax. And there would be options available in financing through revenue and other things. But the sales tax in our one-on-one conversations has always been kind of thrown out there in discussion, and I apologize if you feel that way. It wasn't intentional. It's one of many things that's possible, but it's never been directed. So I just want to clarify that going forward.
Just want to say that we've now rung the first bell to a possible issue when we talk about, doing something up at the beach. We've rung the bell, we can't unring it now. Folks are going to run out there saying, oh, there may be $18 million. Why can't we spend $18 million?
That's never been any
It may not have been the
direction.
intention, but that is,
Oh, okay, well, if we could continue with the presentation and get
That's-
into the numbers, I think that would be
Commissioner
helpful.
Robinson?
That was my point, is that what you stated, we're not going to talk about financing. I don't think the penny sales tax is unknown to anybody, and we are going to have to talk about financing, but not tonight. So
Mayor, can we
that's
continue
the
with
end
the
of
presentation
conversation. Yes.
and get off the dime on this
I'm
one?
quite willing not to talk about financing tonight.
Yes.
My
Please
apologies, and I share
You don't need
city
to
manager
apologize.
sentiments. And with that being said, we'll roll into the presentation at that point in time. I'll call Chris Zimmerman up. I'll hand this
Dun,
torch off.
dun, dun.
But,
I set these things as a precedent just to make sure that people understand, and when I speak up like this, I'm trying to make sure that everyone understands the process that's going on and whatever, that nothing has been decided, that these are just ideas from your beautiful little heads that you came to the charrette with, that you had ideas of, that these people up here thought of, that people in the community and the neighborhoods, whatever, thought up, and this staff and this team, I should say, came together to put those ideas on paper based on what y'all came up with. Wish list, fantasy list, reality, who knows? We'll be the judge together down the road. In the meantime, I'm anxious to see what you guys thought up, so I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Well, good. My name's Chris Zimmerman, President of CPZ Architects. We've got our whole team with us. We've got our cost estimators, our pool guys, our traffic people. So they're all here to answer questions, and you're going to hear a little bit from them a little bit through the presentation. It's kind of a lengthy presentation, so we're going to go through some of the first slides real quickly. Okay, just to give you, just to kind of say, hey, this is where we are. Where did we go? What did we come through? So with that, just keep going, okay? We've been through the beach. All of our team has seen it. We've been there. We've been to a lot of the events just to kind of make sure we know it. We've studied the aerial site plan, went through that, and what we came up with were we had one-on-one with commissioners. We had a charrette meeting that went really well. Actually, I got to commend your community. We've done charrettes in the past, and our team members, both Christian and Paul, we sat at these tables from 8 in the morning to 5. We didn't get lunch. We only got to use the little boys' room, and that was about it, you know. I mean, everybody was engaged, so over 150 people. So the input was great. So that's thanks to you guys. But go back one. We came up with 4 basic areas that we really needed to look at. Vacant space on the second floor, the service area, which we need to work with, the parking issues, and the pool. Those are 4 basic major concepts. So the vacant space on the second floor, we know that's underutilized. We do know that the main space is utilized a lot. So right now, it's rental. It could be rental space. We could use it for catering, bridal suites, those kind of things. So there's some additional revenue sources that may work with that space, and we've looked at that space, and you'll see that. The service area. We've walked around it. We know what it creates. It's a real problem, i.e. delivery trucks and the smell and everything else. So we really wanted to address how we take care of that. Public walks past it, the delivery trucks, the area is way too small. Creates odors. And then the parking issues. They're pretty complex as well. We did have WGI and Tracy's with us to kind of go over the parking areas, and they're doing part of the parking downtown. So having them on board was really good. Tracy?
Hi, Tracy Brook with WGI. And so one of the first things to do with the parking study was to take an inventory. And what we did is we dissected the area by user group and location, just to see how it's being occupied, how it's being used, how many spaces do we have. That's our starting point. That was one of our drone shots, so we'll talk about later. So we looked at current demand. We talked about future demand based on some of the options that we were considering that you guys will be talking about. A financial review of the beach fund parking program only, and then some conceptual garage designs if a garage is determined that that's needed. Parking study, these are some of the highlights. The average daily occupancy for all the locations, the days that we studied, I take that back, March 16th and 17th was a Friday and a Saturday, and April 28th was a Saturday. So even though the overall daily occupancy average for those days is under 100%, there were multiple times during the day, mostly between 11 and 2:30, that were 100% occupied. So, but we started about 10 o'clock in the morning, we went through about 5. Another highlight was the resident-only decal section that we identified. Average occupancy was 70%, again, 100% multiple times during those peak periods. Back up one for a second. This was interesting for the main lot. When we used our drones, and we had videos from the drones, so when we were at 100%, we were able to stop the video and determine, as we walked through it, how many vehicles were actually looking for parking spaces. So there was no impact to the entrance to the parking lot, so traffic was not a non-issue at that point. So the internal queuing was very enlightening to see. So one highlight was at 1 o'clock on March 17th, there was 37 vehicles actually searching. We could tell by the dynamics. Okay? I'm trying to keep it fast. The end result is based on revenue, based on the survey data and the occupancy levels. We've determined it was 30 days, approximately 30 days per year that were at or above capacity. And again, the revenue played a big part of that too. We looked at modeled different days based on how full it was, based on the revenue being generated. And the majority of those days were weekends or holidays. We did not include the Old Bridge parking lot. We felt it was not as good of a location for your level of comfort level for customer service. Crossing the roadway was one thing. Leaving the parking lot, if let's say you used that parking lot to drop your family off and then go park at the bridge lot and then come back. When you want to go get your vehicle to pick up your family, it's right turn only out of the lot, over the bridge, and you have to come back before you can get to the beach complex. So we didn't include that, but it is identified in one of the ideas, and it's already being done, is employees are using that as a employee parking lot, and there's about 125 spaces, so that's a good thing. Future demand, as you guys will continue to talk, we did make very, very conservative estimates based on a couple different scenarios, maybe additional rental, additional retail. Again, very conservative with the approach until we know further about what we want to, what you guys decide, and then we'll be able to narrow it down a little bit more on what the future demand would be, but we do have a general idea. Garage costs, we'll talk about that later too, and as simple as they can be, or as iconic as they can be, the price is pretty much dictated by the amenities, by the skin, by the architectural elements. These are just some couple examples. The first two on the top, those are very simple. There's not a lot of, there's no shade structures. There's no real architectural pieces. The mid-level, you get to a little bit more. You have the glass elevators, maybe some sandblasting on some of the panels. And then the premium, you'll have all the different amenities, including the, what are those photovoltaic, the solar panels, thank you, on the roof, and some of the lighting schemes and the wayfinding and the parking guidance systems. So it can range depending on how you want it to function and how you want it to look.
And the final item we took a look at was, David, come on up, was the pool, which is a fairly large issue that we're dealing with all through the scheme. So,
I'm Dave Fairman with Aquatic Consulting Engineers. We go on to if you look at the existing pool, it's now empty. The pool was constructed in 1971, and it was constructed directly on the underlying soils. Problem with that is more recent studies have shown that there's a layer of peat material down there, which is not what you would typically want to build on. So the pool is settling differentially.
So you said peat?
Peat. Organic materials that will allow the pool to settle, especially uneven settling. You get cracking, the pipes settle. Is it possible to fix? Yes, you could go back and go into a very expensive repair, but you'll probably spend more on that than you would replacing the pool. Because of the surrounding buildings, because you have to work around the existing structures. Also, your existing 15-meter pool and the little kiddie or wading pool share a common filtration system. Currently, that's not allowed by code. It's a sanitation issue. If you were going to replicate this design, you would want to separate them to keep things clean and keep things the way they're supposed to run according to the health department. Also, the current system out there is not ADA compliant, which bringing it into compliance would be a challenge, especially in the wading pool. We looked at some concepts of what to do out there. There could be a hybrid facility to allow multiple different uses out there. We can have areas of the pool designed for exercise, other ones for swimming, others for kids, or you can develop two separate pools. Having separate pools can be safer sometimes, but it all depends on what the goal is and how much of the space we want to devote to the aquatic facility. And as we're saying, I mean, but pretty much no matter whether you decide to put them together or separate your features and your swimmers, it's going to be an enjoyable use. And if we go on more, you'll just see this is just a basic concept of what it can look like. Well,
No, we'll get into the
that'll
concepts
come
in a
up later,
minute.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've looked at that, and then we also stepped out of the box a little bit and started to look at other items that we need to consider as we go into this conceptual planning. One of the things that was basically brought up in a lot was solar energy, and you're a utility company on your own, so setting the example is important. Here's a couple slides of just some imagery that we were thinking about for the facility that might work. And then if we do a garage, how do we brand it? What are we going to brand this? And maybe there needs to be some imagery that we look at as we move forward.
Sorry, can I see that one back?
One back?
That one, yeah.
There.
That's sports field on top of it?
Yeah, that was brought up at the charrette meeting as well. So just out of the box thinking. These are just ideas to kind of, we wanted to show to everyone here, just to say, as we present the design ideas, think of these things. Think of these things as we go through. The next one was the branding, the stairs. How do we get people from down in this parking lot up to the casino building? You know, we do great events there. Is there a possibility for a branding location that people take photos from that says Lake Worth Beach Complex? You know, the weddings happen there, everything else. Some of the things like Fort Lauderdale has the wave wall, you know, Chicago has the bean. Just things that we not necessarily say we should do here, but just little things that in this design brand the the beach complex. So with that, we're going to get to the heart here. We've come up with a bunch of conceptual designs. They work from absolute minimum, okay, to a well thought out, long range, fully developed site. They're not meant to be any one to be the right decision. They're to be thought provoking. They're here for you to look and digest. Tonight we expect to show you some things, but then probably have another workshop. It's a lot to digest in a half an hour or an hour. So with that, let's go to Scheme A. We looked at the beach complex and tried to come up with the minimal amount of improvements to the beach. The service area, to enlarge that service area, to give you a place for semis to turn around in, to come up with a screen wall, to make this a more accessible area and get those trucks and debris off the site. Then we looked at a monumental stair and drop-off. Some place to have weddings that come in. We talked about people walking up and along the roadway. That came up a lot in the service area. We didn't find a place to move the service area somewhere else, so let's move the people somewhere else. Let's look at bringing the people in away from the service area. So we thought a monumental stair, a drop-off for the weddings, and then where the pool is now, just an open lawn. Just an open activity center where things could happen, that there's a retaining wall that holds that soil up and prepares that area for even future development, okay?
Could that be a valet area for handicap or?
It could be a valet area, it could be a lot of things, you know, especially as weddings and activities and banquets happen, you know. The drop-off. And then we also looked at the second floor of the building. And we said, we may not know exactly what's going to go in that. You'll see two things on the second floor. And we have a more fully developed floor plan. But in this scheme, we kept things low. As you know, so these are vanilla box spaces, more just generic spaces that can be used by the city for whatever. You can put offices in there, you can put a bridal suite in there or cater out of it. You can have some meetings, okay? So it's kind of, we're going to go in there, drywall, carpet, and ceiling and air condition, and then let the city develop from there. Parking, we increased the parking count here by 72 spaces by doing two things. We added more parking up on the berm. Right up on the beach, we built a retaining wall. We're suggesting up where the yellow is.
You got the pointer, Deb?
I have a clicker, I don't have the pointer.
It's on the end of the
Is
clicker.
it on here?
Does the point work on the screen, Elise?
You're gonna have to put this.
I don't know if it's going to work on the screen.
This has to go in there.
How about a stick?
That's gonna throw everything off. watch
Is it
it.
gonna?
I know, right?
Everything's gonna crash now.
We were really talking about that berm parking up by Benny's and
The yellow.
the yellow. We actually doubled the parking
I
up
think you
there.
can get it.
Okay?
You're colorblind, the less gray.
Okay. The yellow area up there, right there. We doubled that parking, built a retaining wall, kept it up there. One of the things that does is gives us more premium parking, and also could put resident parking passes up there, because we've expanded the parking lot by 72 spaces. 77. We've added some down by the drop-off on the pink. We took some out, but we added some back in. So our net gain on parking was 72 spaces. And in this scheme, we left the picnic pavilion right on the bottom the way it is. Next slide. Cost. This is our cost breakdown of our basic scheme. We've been really conservative on the costing. With us tonight is Keith Emery. He's our professional cost estimator. So he's put a whole cost estimate together and broke this all down. But you can see we've added some demo costs for the pool. We've had street area, the service area improvement area. We've got the vanilla box build out. And you can kind of go down all the way through those for about $10 million, just $11 million. Then, knowing we're not going to build this tomorrow or this year, we've got an escalation cost in there at 10%, and we've allowed a 20% contingency, which is pretty high, okay? It's high. And I think as we develop this, but one of the things I've learned is not to share with you a number we can't make reality. I've seen too many people fail that way. So understand, these are conservative numbers. We want to make sure it works.
Under promise, over deliver. Vice Mayor Pro Tem.
I just want to ask a question, please. The dotted, I guess the burgundy, maroon, whatever color dotted line across north or south, is that the coastal construction?
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. We've kept our eye on that ball. We've tried to watch that ball all the way through this.
Thank you.
And note also too, if you guys have questions on these now, that doesn't include a pool.
Absolutely not. Okay? Now watch, because you're going to see the next scheme will put a pool in, and we build on each of these schemes. Okay? There was a lot of discussion at the charrette about a need for a pool or a pool in another location of the city. So we want to give you a menu of all sorts of items. So as we go through this, you'll see the cost of a pool and putting one in and how we develop that.
Commissioner Hardy?
Just for people who might be watching this in the future online, or for people who might be here who don't know what the coastal construction line is, could you just let people know what that is and why?
The coastal construction line delineates buildable property that you have from restricted property that you have to have special permits for. Okay, through the state and environmental issues with building that close to the beach. One of the things we've been watching in here, we actually have in this scheme a restroom building that was added. I didn't mention that, but there's a small building right there that we actually kept on the same building pad as you have now. And you'll see us use that space as we go forward, because we already have a foundation there. Our ability to tell the state and the agencies, we're not disturbing anything more. We had a building, we want to put a building back.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, just as we think about through the different versions that you provide.
Sure.
One of the questions I brought up at our visioning session, I think it was, or one of the meetings, was that because of the coastal construction line, the existing building, I don't know if any assessment has been made as to, one of the presentations we had probably a year ago or 2 years ago maybe it was, said that structurally, while that's not delightful in any way, shape, or form, that structurally, what was there, what is there, I know a lot of people have talked about opening up so that you could see the pool or, you know, and everything else. But those buildings were, I know once you remove them and take them away, you can't build there again unless you build on pilings, and it costs double the amount of money to build past that coastal construction line.
Not
Correct.
necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But you could retain the foundations of that existing structure and still build, you could open it up so that you could see a pool or whatever, and you could still build on top of that to maintain that eastern
And
exposure.
I say possibly.
Possibly, okay.
Okay, we're not 100% on the foundations. We
Okay.
definitely can't go 2 stories on the existing foundations.
can't go 2
No,
stories.
I don't think we will be able to do that.
That was a question
So-
I had.
So that limits what we can do.
Okay.
There's some hurricane loadings now that are different with wind loads and how the forces go down to the foundation. So without some detailed testing and things that we would do in the future, we don't know that for sure. There is a possibility.
I just don't like to consider, I'm just always very proactive on it. I'd just rather know, because I'd hate to get rid of something that if it was advantageous for us to keep.
Just
I just
know,
want to
in our cost estimating, we're assuming we take the foundations out and we
Okay.
build a new building. Again, worst case scenario in our cost estimating.
Okay.
Okay? Scheme 1A, this is your pool. We added a 6-lane pool in there. Graphically, it doesn't represent exactly what we have in the cost estimate, but there's a 6-lane pool in there, and it's a lap pool, training pool, and then we've integrated a children's play area and a waiting area. We've kind of opened that corner up a little bit and tried to make it a little more attractive from the roadway and the beach. So this scheme adds that to this into 1A. Again, the parking stays the same. We're at and our cost estimate is about 2.5 for the pool.
Well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was one thing. Okay.
Hold on, you go ahead first, and then.
Okay, go back to the site plan. One of the things in both schemes that we have and outlined in the cost estimate is we took some parking out in front of Benny's, okay, and made a paved drop-off area so that deliveries and stuff could be made out of the way of traffic. So just right in there.
Right there.
Okay.
Right in front.
So I didn't mention that, and we did that in both schemes. It's kind of reoccurring.
And what is down there? Is that the same pavilion on the bottom part?
Same pavilion, correct.
Okay,
And you're going to
and-
see that change as we move forward.
And a
as well.
revised, and the bathrooms, the new bathrooms.
Yeah, that was in the first scheme too.
Okay.
So if we go one more slide, the only thing between scheme 1A and A1 is the addition of the pool.
Commissioner Hardy?
I just want, so when you say that it'll cost about 2.5 to add the 6,000 square foot pool, that's over and above the cost to demolish what's currently there?
That's correct.
So it's
The
really
the demolition
4
cost,
and
we already
3/4.
did that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's really 4 3/4 to address the pool when you add in.
Yeah.
I thought
it's-
the demolition is for that whole project, not just the pool.
Correct, correct. It's for the, so you can't, the pool just, the demolition cost of the pool alone is in that $2 million for the demolition cost. There's other things, demolition around in the berm and the service area and things like that.
Okay.
Okay, so this is just the pool, and one of the things we tried to do is, if you don't want to do the pool right now, this scheme includes the retaining wall and the land, so that if we wanted to go back and add the pool later, you can do that. Okay, one of the things we want to make sure is we make decisions here, and as you kind of digest all these items, we want to be smart in where we end up, so that we don't build something we have to tear out later to accomplish something else. You know, we don't want to do that. We want to make sure, if we can't afford everything up front, that we know where we're going and we build in pieces that we can make that happen.
So of the $2.25 million that are earmarked for demolition costs, how much of that would be attributable to the pool and the pool building?
I don't have that breakdown of numbers right now. Keith, would you?
I thought it was like 150,000 or something like that.
That pool's a big demo cost, and at the moment, my guesstimate is half.
Okay.
Is half.
So you're tearing down the existing building, the locker rooms, the bathrooms, all that's coming out.
All that's coming out.
All the areas to increase the parking, all that landscaping throughout.
Correct.
The bottom, the walkway, the service area, and still that pool is half of that? I mean, you're doing that whole project and it's half?
I just know there's a lot of concrete there, and a lot of structure, and a lot of, you know, putting
Right.
back.
There's just a
tearing
lot of
it all
projects
out.
happening
There-
there.
there's- And again, we're trying to be conservative, so.
Okay.
so.
Okay.
If
can we
Keith comes
move
up
on
with
to-
it, we'll come back.
Okay, excuse me, Vice Mayor?
We can also mention that we can provide an itemized project cost estimate.
Well, I
Correct.
think we're just looking, I think what Commissioner McCarty is just doing, and I agree with him, is just to look for a total cost for pool, which is the
Okay.
demolition.
And we can always, we do, Keith has done an itemized breakdown, and if there's something you'd like us to do, we can do that and come back with the information. We've got all the numbers out there, we just need to come back and give it to you the way you'd like to see it, that's all.
That'd be great, thank you.
Can you go back one slide? Tell me, no, actually, I need it to be bigger without the numbers.
Go back to the main site plan?
Yeah, there you go. Tell me again where you would drop off your brides. Would that be down here on the left hand?
Right there.
Okay, so that would be, and there'd be a staircase and then trucks and everything else are back over there behind
Correct.
where
There's
there's
a new restroom building to the south of the casino building that borders.
And
Right there.
what were you doing to address walking by that dumpster site? You had moved the dumpster?
We had made that dumpster site a lot larger so that we can set the dumpsters there. They're still gonna be there.
But you're still walking by the dumpster? How, you can't move it back or soften that? That's one of my biggest issues is any visitor to the site walks by.
Go back to the blow up. We have one in Scheme A, I think. There, right there. We've added more landscaping, we've kind of pushed it back in, and we still have the sidewalk there, but we've also tried to maneuver the sidewalk from the street level and promote the drop-off area to use that as the main access from the parking lot.
Okay.
People tend to go in the shortest route, so we're hoping that, the idea here is that the design of that stair focuses that attention.
So you're anyone parking in the parking lot, your thought is to direct them up through.
Absolutely,
and they
100%.
They would go through the complex and then off to Benny's or off to Mulligan's or.
Correct.
Or there's an
And it's-
elevator planned in the middle of the property as a design option.
Oh, I was just gonna say.
So we
that.
have ADA access planned in there.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And the idea is to bring them up at the far end of the complex.
So-
along the.
And that would be covered, covered in some form from the
We
elements?
looked at
or-
some cover. We
Okay.
didn't cover it completely at this point. We were really just looking broad brush on how we would.
No, but once you get up, once you get dropped off, you get through the landscape, the vision of it, and you're in. Is the building going to? Is it going to be covered in and around the
You'll see later in
building?
the
Yes,
presentation.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
picture from the elements.
Vice Mayor?
And again, we can
Pro
come
Tem?
back to these slides
Okay.
in a little bit more detail.
Are you doing anything different with the dumpster pad? Are you designing it any differently than it currently exists?
We would look to redesign that area completely, especially even the grease drop off right now, that grease.
Now, the reason I bring that up is because Mulligan's doesn't have a very good reputation for keeping their dumpster area clean, and there's
okay.
a stench. And frankly, if I were getting married, 75 feet to the south, I don't think I'd want to be smelling the dumpster. So that's something that really has to be factored in here. I don't know if you could have both unless you do something with the dumpster.
Okay.
Maybe they need a compactor or a larger dumpster pad or something with, a lot of drainage in that dumpster pad so they can get in there and pressure clean it on a regular basis and keep it clean and sanitary.
A compactor might not be a really good idea.
Yeah.
Rather than what we're dealing with.
Yes.
Could you go back one? to the
Commissioner
numbers?
Robinson? Sorry, I didn't see your light.
It's because you didn't turn it on.
Mr. Robinson?
No, I just wanted to look at the $3 million for the retaining wall and berm and storage elevator tower. So that's not a pedestrian elevator.
Well, there's gonna be some storage ability in that tower, so it's storage and an elevator. You're gonna have some service equipment and things you're gonna need to store. There's actually 2 elevators in
Is it an
this.
elevator or are you talking about a delivery elevator?
No, we're just talking about a elevator with some storage areas with that tower. Not a service elevator for deliveries, No.
You want to show them the location of it?
Yes.
It's to move people from the bottom parking lot to the top parking lot.
There's
right
two
there.
of them that we've actually
That's
got
what
in.
I'm-
One right there at the
Okay.
berm parking,
Okay.
and then we've got another one down where the drop-off is.
Thank you.
Yep.
Vice Mayor?
Where would the elevator be for, to move product, to move?
Those are existing. On
So
the,
you're
on the
gonna
north
use your
side of the building.
existing-
Yeah, we're just gonna stay the way they are, right off the delivery area, right where it is.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Because it's on the other side of the building.
There's two.
How,
On the very north side of the building, there's an access walkway right there for service deliveries.
After
That's
you
the
get
true
up.
intent of the use of it, right?
After you get up.
Right.
They come in there and go right past that hedge line into the back to the elevator.
To the west of audience.
Okay, like to continue.
Okay. Okay, let's go to the next scheme. Okay, scheme B. Scheme looks very similar to what we did. There's a few things that we've refined. We've actually added, the public restroom's still there. That arrow's off a little bit, but it's actually not there, it's that little one.
Yeah.
So the monumental stairs, the green lawn, that's all still part of it. One more. We've taken the second floor and developed it a little more in this scheme. Instead of just being a vanilla box, we looked and we heard a lot of concern about additional catering spaces. One more slide. Additional catering space, a bridal suite, 2 meeting rooms with a movable partition so that we could have multiple size events, and facilities office, staff offices. So this kind of develops that second floor a little more.
Where is staff currently working?
In the vacant space.
In the vacant space, just in there.
5,000.
Okay, so yeah, as you could have saw from some of those first photos, it's just wide open, so there's a lot of space there. We developed the lawn a little more in this scheme. We added a small stage venue, and we also added a retail/concession building up on the corner on the green lawn. There you can see the idea of a concession area, catering bar type area, and then again, restroom facilities up there, so.
Can I'm sorry, where is that in conjunction to?
To the site plan?
Yes,
Go
sorry.
right there. It's there.
Where the old building, the old
We
restroom
took,
building would be.
we took the old restroom building, and we did pretty much what you suggest, what you made a comment on, was we opened the middle up.
Right.
And we built on both ends,
Gotcha.
trying to do, and trying to keep an end near the cul-de-sac on that end that starts to draw activity, okay, meaning the tiki bar, concession, retail, whatever. Okay. Then we did the same berm parking with the stair tower and elevator and retaining wall, but what we also added to this scheme was the need for a maintenance facility. Right now, there's really no place for lawnmowers or maintenance equipment. That's up on the second floor as well. So we took that same footprint as that pavilion, and we can't enclose it. It won't meet current code, just to enclose it. But we looked at taking that same footprint and putting a couple offices in there and a maintenance facility with a restroom. Just as an option to try to give staff a place to put all that maintenance equipment.
And just a point of clarification, the lawnmowers aren't stored upstairs.
I was
No,
gonna
no,
They're
they're
stored
not.
in a temporary
Right.
facility behind the pool right now. Just
We're not taking thanks. No, but there is some maintenance equipment up there and some
a
tools
lot
and
of
things like
custodian
that.
supplies.
Yeah.
and stuff.
that-
Vice Mayor?
And just to go back to lawnmowers, what do we have lawnmowers up there for? If
Well, we don't
outsource
store a
it?
lot of lawnmowers. I think we have one, but we have a combination of in-house and contracted lawn service. So weed whackers, blowers, our I forget some of the technical names of some of the equipment, but we do
Okay.
have a lot of equipment.
Okay.
Whether it's cleaning or the maintenance of the property.
Where are we
So
keeping it now?
in that storage shed behind the pool,
Size of
most of it,
sinkers.
and then there's a small storage area on the existing pavilion at the bottom of the property. So it's a mishmash of 3 locations.
Size of signals.
Commissioner Robinson? Did you have something?
No,
I'm sorry.
didn't turn the light on, sorry.
This scheme, as far as parking goes, we did not include additional parking on the ground, on the pink area like we did in the previous. We took a little more advantage of the drop-off, and we're up to about a net of 35 spaces. So we didn't gain quite as much as we gained in the first scheme. So with that, with all those improvements, with the second floor and the maintenance facility, we're changing the bubble a little bit here and going to about 18 million total. So,
No pool.
no pool, no pool. So, and that's scheme B. Scheme C. This changed the dynamics quite a bit in the fact that during our design charrettes internally and trying to give a presence as you approach and come to the site, we rearranged the roadway and the drop-off. We gave the beach complex an approach. When you come here and come into the drop-off and then go into the parking, it's a tree-lined street, it's a median, it comes to a nice central roundabout, and there can be something in the center of that as you go up through the center stairs. So that's the main change. We also looked at enlarging the service area a little bit. We took advantage of pushing into that green space a little more. Here's a little blow-up of what we accomplished. We really think the approach and the presence of the facility, when you start to think about branding and the image of Lake Worth and the beach and how people come and approach the parking lot, that this improves it quite a bit.
Excuse me. Am I to assume this is two-way traffic in and out?
Yes, absolutely.
Did you consider one-way traffic in and one-way traffic out onto A1A?
No, we did not.
Is there
At
any
this
particular
point.
reason for that?
No, we just actually didn't look at one-way traffic. We thought that the flow through this really worked as a traffic light and coming into the property both two ways. It gives more flexibility all the way through the circulation of the space.
How does it provide flexibility? Once you get into the parking lot, you're into the parking lot.
Tracy, any thoughts on that?
For one way in, one way out, the south exit.
Can you just talk into the microphone? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. The south exit, you can only go southbound. I believe there's a restriction there. And then if you're going south to get into, you can go northbound. If you're going, then I wasn't prepared for this. I don't remember exactly. But there is a restriction if you're going. You can't go north. If you're exiting, you can't go north because
You can't go
you can't.
south.
Okay. Yeah.
You can't.
From the center ones?
The southernmost exit, you could go north or south.
You can go north or south.
On north exit and the south exit.
These are talking about the middle.
The middle exit, you can only go north.
But we could look at that.
Yeah.
We could actually go back. So that's some of the good conversation. We
Well,
did not look at it.
I only bring it up because I'm looking at the configuration you have, and I'm thinking, you talk about bottleneck. You know, you have people going around the roundabout there and say, you don't want to change my mind, or people leaving and dumping back out onto that main drag in there. They should be in and out a different way.
Well, there's
And let the-
actually,
and the
as we
and the lights
designed it,
control
as we
everything.
looked at it, as you come into the parking lot, there's actually a roadway that comes down.
Can you show with the arrow? I can't follow what ways you're
See
going
the-
here.
Right, as you come in, there's that circulation right into the parking lot.
Right.
Is
You know,
where-
we tried to
where you
get
go?
people away from the roundabout to come right into the parking. So there is a side, there you go,
So you come.
a side flow away from the roundabout.
So you go right in there. Okay.
You can go straight, or you can come right into the parking lot.
It just seems to me that it's so much cleaner and smooth just to have one way in and one way out.
And we can do that. We can reevaluate that. Again, we're here to kind of say, hey, here's some ideas.
Okay.
Thank you.
So where are the other access and entry points? So you come in, you can come in through the middle, or you can come in through the south side now?
Correct.
Okay. And then How do you get to the top lot? You go up straight the way you normally do
No,
now?
the way you normally do.
But now you have the addition of that other whole level of parking spots.
Correct. We kept that berm parking, which actually is nice as people search for a parking space. Because right now, if there's an event or something, and for some reason that roadway in front of the casino is closed off, and you've got a, right now you only have a single loaded, double loaded parking. So as somebody's waiting for a parking space or somebody's going the other way, it kind of bottlenecks. At least now you've got a circulation that goes all the way around the parking lot.
If you can get by.
So,
You got a lot of ground to cover.
okay.
Why'd you,
Mr. Robinson?
just the tractor trailer there is actually going uphill, right?
It'll have we have to work out the grades in that location, correct?
Yeah, I
Yes,
think
we
so.
do.
Commissioner Harding?
Okay. So scheme C, we enlarged that, we talked about this area. We've only got a net of one space at this only increased it by one. Cost estimate, again, is right around 18.5 million.
There is public participation on this, so if you want to ask any questions at the end of the presentation, please fill out a blue card.
Okay, scheme D. This basically took what you saw, and we added two things. We added a pool, and we added a parking deck to increase parking. So you've got two changes from the last one. The pool, which we talked about in scheme A, and we added a one-story parking garage to the site. This one-story garage would be level with the berm. So think of it in that location. As far as impact to the site goes and visual impact, it's one level. This added about 108 spaces to that scheme. We thought that with the pool and what we've done with the entry and where we were with one space, it wasn't really enough. So this adds the parking garage to it. And next,
Vice Mayor, did you have a
adds
question?
quite a bit of money.
Yeah, real quick, so going back on that, so does that include the 70-some parking in the yellow? So you're getting 70-some parking in the yellow plus another 108?
No, net is 108.
So you're only getting it, so you had a okay.
All right, net 108. And we made sure we have the net number so that we keep looking at whatever the net gain is.
And does that include any kind of event facility in the parking? Does that include any kind of solar on the parking?
No, it does not.
It's
Basic,
Just basic.
one-story garage.
I'm sorry. You went from 108 spaces, right? And you had 77 before?
There were, in the yellow originally, there was 77.
But remember, the yellow where we picked up 77 had a much smaller entrance impact. This version has the big grandiose
We
full
lost,
round circle.
we lost parking by doing that grand entrance
Right.
and the drive. That's why in the last scheme you saw, in C, yeah, you can see it here, we lost parking.
But if we go back to the basic
You could add the deck to
Traffic
that.
circle.
traffic circle, that the nice, beautiful staircase,
Right.
you still have the 77 plus a parking.
You won't have 77 with this design, but the
No,
first
No,
one.
not this one, the first
Yeah.
one.
The first one, yes.
You'll have 77 plus however many you could get it in the one-story parking.
That, if you would add a parking garage to that first scheme, yes, you
Okay,
could get
because
77
originally when you started,
plus.
you said we can pick and choose.
And
and-
that's absolutely true.
Okay.
That's where we're, and that's why we've kind of built this like this.
Okay.
So that you can kind of see, in the cost estimates, we've highlighted those items that are kind of,
And the reason I'm asking, because I like the other one a little bit better than this one. And because I'm getting more parking, you know, at the end of the day, it's the parking, because you're bringing more people, you're bringing more things going on, you're gonna need more parking.
that's why we're building.
Right. And,
That's
and
exactly.
you can go back and design the parking mixed use, commercial on one level. A lot of ways to do that. All interchangeable pieces.
Okay.
Okay?
Like,
This really drove, go back one.
Stay at the numbers.
The numbers, that parking structure is $7 million. You should just understand that. The ground floor needs to be reconstructed. You can't just build over what you have. It has to have the drainage, it has to have concrete, so you're really paying for 2 levels, even in a 1-story garage. So, the pool's added back in, and we added some cabanas and stuff around the pool, so we kind of upgraded that pool. So, okay, so that's scheme D. Scheme E. Here.
Yeah, real quick before we leave D.
Okay, go back.
So the parking lot itself, how many parking spots will be in a 1-story parking garage by itself?
Go back.
248.
Yeah, 248, I think we had in there.
248.
248.
Then you're losing what was there before.
But understand, that's 2 levels. So your net gain is only about 124.
Okay, and how many are you losing? What footprint does that take? How many?
I'd have to look at that. I don't know.
Deduct what they're building.
Yeah.
But you're not losing.
Well, you're adding.
Well, just
but-
let's let them answer, please.
If you check the second item, that is
484 minus
it
290.
goes from 484 to 290.
Correct.
And the parking structure is calling 248. So if you subtract 290 from 484, that's the amount that you're losing from the ground parking. And the 248 is what you're getting from the.
Someone do the math?
Lose about 194 spaces.
Yeah.
Then your net gain's about 108 when it's built.
Okay.
You're gaining 108 spots.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over and above what we have.
Yeah, it's about 124.
Well, yeah, and then.
Now
plus
remember, this
the
is with
77.
that concept, with that big
Correct.
entrance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That net difference builds up if you go to, say, option A, and you do the parking structure. So now you're at 248 plus the additional 77. So now we're up in the 300s, close to 400 additional spaces in parking.
Okay.
Commissioner Hardy?
Can we just go back to the occupancy rates of the parking and then connect that to the incremental cost of the additional? So look, you've got parking spaces that you gain by adding a parking deck, right? Okay. And I'm only really interested in the incremental gain, right? Like, okay. And I guess, to me, what is the revenue we would get from those incremental parking spaces at the deck? And, what does it cost to get those? And, whether or not there's a positive present value net of the cost.
Yeah, well, just think of
I didn't
that
explain
parking.
that very well,
I
but.
think I understand.
Yeah.
We're getting 248 spaces out of that parking garage,
Right.
but you're really only gaining the top
100
floor.
right, which is
So
like 108.
124.
Okay.
What's the revenue on those 124 to pay for that
Precisely.
$7 million garage?
That was the question I asked earlier today, and
Because
I was
think
told
what
that we're not talking about revenue. That's why I made that statement earlier
Well,
on this evening.
But
Yeah, well.
And I argued the exact same thing
I-
you're about to
I-
argue.
I'm not asking where are the dollars going to come from. I'm just asking what would be the NPV of the parking garage. That's my question. I
Fair
mean,
enough.
basically, you're paying $7 million for 124 extra parking spaces. We haven't seen full capacity. Yeah, so it's we would have to make sure that works
Without
out.
doing a
Whether that's a
complete-
worthwhile financial.
Yeah, without doing
d-
complete financial pro forma.
Yeah.
Currently, at the old rate, the $2 an hour rate, the average revenue generated per space,
At what occupancy rate?
at the current revenue, based on the
Okay.
current revenue, it's about $200 per space per month, which you're
Okay.
generating today,
Okay.
at the $2 an hour rate. That was all done prior to the rate adjustment.
I'm sorry, say that again? That's about how
About
much?
$200 per space per month for the existing facility.
That was
That was at the $2 an hour rate.
$2 rate, not the $3.
Okay. If you could just get that information to us, I think that's really important. These are financial decisions we should probably,
Right.
And we can do that.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Round 2.
Okay. There's where we were with D, and I think our final scheme is E. Oh, here. Okay, scheming. We've actually closed off the roadway here. We kind of stepped out. There was a lot of discussion that we've had with both the charrette and throughout to create a plaza, an area in front of the casino that is there for events, possibly an event canopy area, open that pool a little more, and close the roadway down. So this scheme does that. It creates a plaza of pavers and looks out at putting another canopy area out towards the beach. Again, these are kind of conceptual, and one of the things we talked about was making sure we maintain the beach wall. We don't want, this, you may see things that are out there, but this concept includes leaving the actual wall, the retaining wall, if you will. So, but the idea was to close it out and make it a little more open and stop traffic from
Close it where?
At the cul-de-sac on both sides. So your road would stop. You no longer have through traffic in front of the casino building.
Oh, so right at the base of the pool
Yes, go
building?
back. You can see here.
To the other traffic circle that's straight up?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. This
Can
kind
you
of.
zoom in on that version right there?
Yeah, sorry,
a little
folks,
bit?
we didn't see these pictures.
Close it here and close it.
So there.
There you go. So it closed off on the south boundary of the pool, and then on the north boundary, you still got the roundabout. It creates
Okay.
kind of a walkable promenade out in front of the casino building.
So you can't drive right at that, at the
Correct.
northernmost roundabout?
Correct. Correct.
So you just
So
can go.
envision art shows, flamethrowers.
Does this all?
You could have art shows.
When we've shut down that area
They
for
shut that
those
down
art
anyway.
shows
Right.
anyway, right?
Correct.
Okay, and what about the plan when we talked about the possibility of a bus route returning? Does this incorporate those costs?
No, the bus shelter conversations, it's on its own track, but it would not affect any of these design concepts because it's at the lower western boundary of the
Yeah, the bus
property.
would still come and go like
Yeah,
that.
it's
That's
just
not
down.
gonna go there.
Down
Doesn't
here.
circle.
Yeah, the circle's still there, and it could be built for, obviously for emergency vehicles and a bus, the bus, so we can't lose that emergency access,
Still-
Okay,
emergency vehicle access.
okay. So, yeah, can we go through the features for this? Before we sign
Okay,
right?
Scheme E, we included a support building, just a storage building of whatever that could be, and a green lawn off the pool. So there actually could be events out and around the pool, a green area, a little more open space that works with the overall plaza design, so.
Or, and you can envision potentially expanding the pool footprint to add shade structures, for families to sit while they're visiting the pool, which is something that the existing property lacks.
We
So
showed that
again,
with cabanas out
imagination.
there and things like that, so. And then, again, we still left the garage in there, go from there.
Is it, the garage is 230, how do we get to 232 additional spaces?
Because that's actually a two-level garage in this scheme, okay?
Two
We-
levels.
We went to two levels here. We thought that, with the plaza and the events, and we know parking's a concern. So we had a one-story garage at X amount of dollars, 7 million. Now we got a two-story garage, and you'll see that reflected in the cost estimate, which goes up to 372 cars or $11 million. So basically, you can take that, 3.5 per floor and add it. Now, again, we could go back to the revenue projections, and give you a cost revenue. But this is saying that you gain enough cars to make that revenue happen.
Commissioner Robinson?
Were you aware of the bus stop
Yes, we were.
at the beginning of your?
We heard about that as we moved through.
Commissioner Hardy?
Could you tell me again the amount of parking spaces that would be gained with the two-story structure in this scenario? The number has changed a little bit.
Yes, net of
232.
232 across the whole site.
Same location.
Okay.
And all these slides are in your backup material.
Yeah.
This backup material that we just got.
Is exactly where you're
Today.
seeing now.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
No, that's why
Every
we're just
second
seeing
before
it for
the
the first time, so we're just trying to.
Well, there's a lot to digest, so that's why we printed it
My
out, thought
apologies.
you would have to want to take it home, sit on it, and really kind of go through it. So we're up to, $40 million. So, but that hardscape around the front, along with the removal of the asphalt, is about $3 million. So that's quite a bit of money. So that's scheme E. And then our final scheme, we kind of went out.
I'm afraid to see
But there was some discussion during our whole review process, and about a public-private partnership, if or whenever. So we did add something here as a final scheme. Not that it's anything that you're going to do, not that we recommend it or not, but just to say, okay, we heard about it, and maybe we should at least throw a scheme out there.
Thank you.
So we added some retail and shops right near the parking garage. We've expanded the parking garage higher again, and we've added a hotel development of some type, boutique hotel development. So
where?
You did
on the far corner.
South.
Excuse me.
On
the
southwest
southwest
corner.
corner.
Oh my
Just
God.
as yep, I'm probably going to get shot, and it's probably, but that was talked about, so we thought it was important to just at least throw it out there on one of the schemes. So, and with that, we can go to the next slide. That added an additional parking structure that went up 4 floors and put the hotel in. So there's quite a bit of difference there, and then again the costs are
what are the
way up
costs?
there.
I want to see the costs.
5-story. It's actually 5 stories and 25 million. So the cost of the hotel is not in here. So that would be a private, and then possibly revenue from that.
Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah, so how are you on FAR here with this? Isn't there like a total allowable FAR at the beach?
There
and have we
is.
run a file
It's
of it?
exceeded.
It's exceeded by how much?
In this
First of all,
scheme.
what is
We
the
didn't-
total allowable
one
FAR?
at a time. Okay, go ahead.
What was our total FAR? I'd have to look at that. Everything except for this scheme meets that FAR. We haven't really built much on there.
Okay.
There he is.
No.
What was that FAR? The total.
Far away.
0.1.
I'm sorry?
0.1.
That's the total allowable FAR at the beach?
No, that's the FAR. You're talking about total allowable square footage, buildable
Floor
square
area.
footage, floor area.
Yeah.
Right. What was it, 12? 15? I off the
Get
top of
on
my
up
head.
here.
Off the top of my head, I can't.
Come
tell you.
on down.
So, I do know we had that, but I know where we were.
William Waters, Community Sustainability Director. The FAR for the site is 0.1, and that's based on 16 acres, which is 43,560 times 16 times 0.1. That's the total amount of square footage that can be built. But however, there are restrictions in the beach and casino zoning and in the comprehensive plan as to how that space can be used. I believe right now the site is limited to 43,560 or so square feet in the comp plan. There's also restrictions on how much of it can be retail, but essentially we would have to make a comprehensive plan change and a land development regulation change in order to facilitate the scheme that has the last one that was shown.
Madam Mayor? As an addendum to this document, would you mind giving us that in writing?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, if you could just run that down and attach it to this document, I think that would be helpful.
We need to have it in the top of our head, like he just.
Yeah, right, yeah, and, my.
No, we
Yeah.
Square root of pi.
We didn't even know. It's out there, it's just an idea. We didn't try to come up with a square footage of a hotel. We just.
Right. And this is the only one that
The
would
hypotenuse.
potentially run afoul of
Right.
the total allowable FAR. Okay.
Yeah. Everything else fit into the allowable square footage that we were building.
And all the other things in the code.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
comp
yeah.
plan, all right.
Yeah, we really didn't step out of the box on anything else.
Vice Mayor?
We're not supposed to talk about financing, so I'll try to go in a different direction. So this plan, feasibly with a partnership, could possibly offset the cost for some of the other projects.
That would be the idea.
Is there anything else in any of the other plans that could possibly be a partnership that could offset costs on behalf of the taxpayers?
Well, we looked at that second floor venue and having additional rental space, so that would. If we developed the retail concession building that would possibly bring in some additional revenue. Having events on a lawn or whatever would possibly do that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Robinson?
Disappointed that nothing has changed in relation to the pier, other than taking it away for deliveries.
We really didn't hear anything about that in the whole charrette process. Was any concern about changing or developing or anything to the pier?
Yeah. I believe
it's a
that.
good
I was
point,
there
but-
all day, and I
right. We
I
didn't
agree.
really, so we didn't think
But
it
I
was something.
expected maybe.
Okay, we
something
really tried to address what we were. Okay, so I think with that, just a quick summary, Scheme A, and we'll go through these. You can kind of see how they overlap. There's the price tag, and then Scheme B, it kind of changed a little bit. Go back again. That's the one drop off that's here there, and then to the next slide, you can really see what that drop off does. Then the parking garage and the pool to that scheme. And then the plaza out front of the casino is the major one. And then the hotel development. So, and with that, let's show just some visuals. This is a cross section through the complex. We have the parking garage with a 2-story garage. You can kind of see that ghosted in the back and what that might look about scale wise.
So from what direction are we?
Facing south.
Right, facing south.
Okay.
Next. Again, just a visual of what a canopy or stage might look like. Again, a section through that the drop off, and then coming up down below. In the berm parking. Next. Really want to get to the other images we've had.
I'm sorry.
There's the image of what that potential drop off might look like.
Nice.
And the pool up above.
The tractor trailer was still there?
We put the Stella truck back in there. Again, here's the promenade and the opening of that.
Where is, okay, where?
There's the drop off. That's the promenade up by the berm parking, and as it goes up in front of the building and the pool.
Was that the expanded roundabout and entranceway?
Correct.
Okay, so can we see what the other one, the not so expanded version was? Do we have that?
No, this is up on the berm. Okay, this is down below looking at the roundabout. Okay, go to the next one. This is up on the berm along the beach.
Okay.
The next one, here's the roundabout with the stair and the drop off. That's a little blow up of that. And then again, there's the pool. This is the expanded promenade.
She's not allowed to rollerblade. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Yeah, sometimes those stock photos, you know.
Just kidding.
This is looking towards the pool with the cabanas, and then down in front of the casino building with that plaza. And kind of an aerial view of the plaza in front of the casino building, along with the pool looking from the beach area. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Maxwell?
Yeah. One of the, I thought going into this process, one of the objectives was.
Mike, I can't hear
I
you.
don't want to.
But you can't hear you.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm gonna call a bathroom break.
Don't you dare.
There you go. I'm talking to you right
I really thought that this process was going to yield more opportunity for retail. I won't even go so far as to say public-private partnership, but I was under the impression that that's kind of what we were trying to factor into this, that was all about revenue. And what I've seen here tonight, for the most part, is just an increase in parking spots until you get into the real big ticket items. And then I don't know what the return on investment really is going to look like. That's going to be a stretch. So I'm a little bit disappointed on that piece of it. As far as your parking analysis is concerned, I don't know how much time you spent at the beach, but I don't know that you enlightened us too much as to what our need is up there. I mean, it seems to me that you've only been able to track 3 days out of the entire year that were at capacity, and my question is, how many days did you actually go up there and do the research? You know, I really question that, okay? And finally, this is really important for me. I'd like to know, because I made this very clear with staff, and I think I made it clear with you folks when I spoke with you, perhaps I didn't. But I really thought that it would be very important to know whatever you're showing us tonight that was the result of citizen input should have been clearly identified, so we could distinguish between what the public is asking for and what you guys thought might be a great idea. Okay, and the other question is, if you did put items in there from the citizens, which is why I did not want you to put items in there from the citizens, is because if you put her suggestion in there and you don't put his suggestion in there, then we have conflict potentially in the community when it comes down to trying to make a decision on which way we're going to go. So I'd really like to have the answers to that before we have another conversation about any of this. Thank you.
Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah, I just want to say 2 things. First of all, I had the benefit of being a teenager in the age of the internet. I was one of the first, which is really cool. But
you were the first teenager?
No, I was in that group of kids when we were teenagers when the internet was young, and this amazing thing came out called Nike ID, right? And as a basketball player, it was cool. You get to go on Nike, and you get to pick a shoe, and you get to customize that shoe with different options, right? And Nike would tell you which options don't match up, and then they'd give you the final cost of that, right? I think it would be really interesting if you could create a tool for us and for the residents where you could take not the different schemes, but the different elements of the different schemes and allow us to put them together and have a cost item associated with each one so that we can do our own mixing and matching. Because even though we've seen the different schemes, I would like to see how different elements of the scheme, like you said, could be taken apart and put together like Legos. I would very much like to see that, and I think the resident should have the opportunity to do that. If it's possible that we can create like a tool like that where somebody can go online and mix and match those pieces.
That'll be $4 million, please.
10 years to develop.
It might be
10 years to develop.
It might be worthwhile trying, or at least seeing how feasible is it, because I imagine that there are people who would like to play around with this, and it would be cool if we can kind of crowdsource the genius of the residents who live here.
I love that idea, but I think in my generation it was called color forms. Do you remember? We put the vinyl piece. You don't know what they were.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
There were little dolls and things, and they were vinyl, and you put one on here, and you moved it by taking a piece of the vinyl and moving it there. And you could just take that piece of vinyl and move it, or felt board. Same thing, but in felt. Wow, I feel really old now.
But it would be interesting if a tool like that could be generated, and I imagine that with maybe the help of a computer programmer or a web design person, you might be able to get something like that done. Sure, but I think it would be interesting to see what our residents will come up with having that sort of an option. The other thing is, as far as how we approach this, I guess there are 2 approaches that we could take, right? We can try to go, and you've, I think, kind of outlined this pretty well with the different schemes here. We could try to just do the least that we can, do to solve some of the problems that we have addressed and just leave it alone, right? Or we can try to do something to make that place even more popular than it already is. A place that people will really crave to be near all the time. A place that can help put us on the map more, than we are right now, and a place that could really enhance the benefit of living in Lake Worth, which is that you're living so close to the water. And I think, honestly, going into this, my personal position was, I just want to do what we can to solve the problems that we have there and just leave it alone. But after I've seen some of the things that you've come up with, I think there's an opportunity to do more. So I'm going to thank you for the work that you did and for working with our residents and for putting this together. You certainly got me thinking, and I'm very interested to see how this process is going to play out.
Commissioner Robinson?
Don't stop thinking. You know, it has been a failed business plan from get-go. We've had 5,000 square feet up there for storage for 5 years, and I was waiting for a wow factor that would be an attraction, would be a draw to Lake Worth, and the only wow factor I got so far was in numbers. I think we're off to a relatively good start. If we recognize that it should be an attraction for Lake Worth. I'm sorry, yes, public-private partnership is probably, hopefully going to be looked at. But I was honestly hoping, you know, that we got a little more direction from a professional standpoint in terms of tourism and attraction. Not just, and the pier wasn't mentioned, but the pier is a feature of our beach. We've seemed to have focused on parking, and with the advent of other methods of transportation, parking may not be, or hopefully won't be the main interest in our new plans. This is, I think we're at the very beginning of this process, but clearly we need to address something that needs fixed. And if we, I'm glad we got started on it. That's all. We have a lot more to go.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Commissioner Maxwell, did you have?
No, I changed my mind.
Did you? Okay. Public comment cards. We have Ryan Oblender, followed by someone who dropped this off to read. Okay. Are there any other public if you have a card to fill out?
That's it. This is it for cards.
Hi, Ryan Oblender, 1702 North A Street. Just a few notes on, I guess I can recap from months ago when that charrette was happening, the red and green dot fiasco. Hopefully there's any other charrettes in the future that both dots are present in the beginning. That way green means good, red means bad, not red means good, but later green means bad. That was all confusing, and thank you for the commissioner for removing those boards for further confusion. Just another comment I heard today, the sports field on top of the parking garage, that was actually there on the presentation boards. Not one resident recommended that, it was just there already. I don't think anyone that I saw actually was for that. Next thing was a major issue with the parking is residence parking. People would like to see a flexible option where it's not just fixed parking where we're like, you go here, you go there, that's it. If it's not available, you're done. I think there might be a value to residential having flexible spots. If they have a parking decal, they can park wherever they want, and that's it. You know, so they're not like having to fight with people who pay the $35 fine or whatever for taking up their space. Otherwise, things that may not have been, I mean, they may or may not have been mentioned were the May through October turtle season. We're having a nice promenade or anything like that, or a glowing parking garage might be detrimental to the sea turtle hatchlings and making their way to the beach. That actually starts at 9 p.m., so any kind of bands or extravagant lighting all has to be kaput by 9 p.m. So that further away from the actual beach line would be important. Otherwise, I mean, I have a 5-year-old son. We would love to have a a pool feature, splash pad, slides, water park. I had a 2-hour conversation with the Parks Director of Martin County. He had a part in the Calypso, and it's actually revenue generating, so.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the following Without our beautiful, this is, I'm sorry, from Judith Just, 306 North Lakeside. Without our beautiful beachfront, Lake Worth would be another nothing town in Florida. Focus on making our beach an amenity for old and new residents and an attraction to tourists. Consider the waterfront problems which are more frequently impacting our beaches. For example, red tide, seaweed infestation. A beach pool would be a great alternative for beachgoers when those conditions exist. I'm against developing the pool area into commercial rental space. The city has a problem renting current commercial space. Why build more? Beach complex needs more marketing and better management. When formulating a plan for the complex improvements, simultaneous consideration should be given to the restructuring and repayment of the city's outstanding notes to the beach fund. Build in flexibility of repayment. Plan to provide adequate funding for ongoing maintenance at the beach. Would you purchase a home using a low-interest long-term mortgage and not maintain your home in order to pay off the loan? Deferring maintenance only costs more in the future. Keep outstanding beach fund loan of $4.8 million in proper perspective. 2017 governmental activities had an outstanding loan balance of $22 million, and City Utilities Department had an outstanding loan balance of $67 million. Some of these loans were to fund capital improvements, and some to cover that dreaded deferred maintenance. Richard Garcia.
Rick Ruffey up next.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, Richard Garcia, 720 South Elmway. Chris, we saw no slide, it might be in there, but we didn't see a slide for Scheme B on the costs. Right, that didn't show up. The cost of the revenue for each space, we had 613 spaces up there that generate revenue by parking, from parking meters. We had about $1.6 million in revenue. It comes out to about, well, if we at $3 an hour, it's about $325 a month. So a little under $4,000 a year per space of revenue based on the model that we have now. Benny's was not mentioned at all. I know Commissioner Robinson said the pier. That building's falling apart, really needs a good redesign. There was there's some room to expand it and to rebuild it properly. I think that we need to address that, and the pier itself, if we can get to that. It's nice to see Commissioner Maxwell has taken some sensitivity training and worried about what the people at the city feel about what they, should they be put off by something. That is it. I'd really like to know if the pool is rolled into, not the pool, the hotel is rolled into our costs, or how would that be? We need to talk about how that would be paid for, because we saw that number of $59 million? $59 million.
It wasn't included.
Yeah. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Wow. Rich Raphael?
Sure.
Go ahead on the dice.
Hi. I appreciate the opportunity to talk. I heard a couple of things that I didn't hear some things that I actually had questions on. Number one was a constant problem that we have is a crosswalk from the resident parking on the north side to the beach, and I didn't see that addressed anywhere. Now, so as you consider your, modifying the design, to consider that, because that is an area that is a area fraught with some danger. Secondly, in looking at the slides that were being presented, it looked like there's going to be a whole section of residential parking with metered parking. If I understood that correctly, it means that those of us with parking passes will still be paying for a meter. Is that the intent? Okay, that wasn't clear, so I missed that. And my last question is, if I remember correctly, when the current complex was put together with the help of funds from Palm Beach County, we sort of entered I don't want to say deal with the devil, but there were certain restrictions. My understanding was that we had to adhere. And and parking was one of them. So does this plan take all those restrictions into consideration? So, thank you.
Yeah, actually it does. My question was that if we were required to do all of these things, and I've said this publicly before, so it doesn't come as a surprise, but we're footing the bill. We have a park that's utilized by a lot of people that aren't our residents, and we're footing the bill for a lot of projects that basically are going to benefit Palm Beach County residents, not just Lake Worth residents. And when we talked about some of those expense items, what I saw, like in the parking structures that were mentioned, you can have a seat. when we met, some of the things that are being mentioned, is that why are we footing the bill alone when this is gonna benefit? I mean, as we add spaces, why are we not talking about sharing? But I think asking the county for any money is probably going to be futile. But again, that's a possibility. We're adding more amenities to a feature that's basically provided for Palm Beach County. Why isn't that, we're taking that into consideration? For me, I want to thank you all for your presentation and the time that you've taken to do it. Agree with the Vice Mayor Pro Tem in that I would have liked some more investigation of the parking, scenarios and times and places and things, because it is extremely varied. The weekday numbers, the off-season numbers, the in-season numbers, those were season numbers. And I know you were looking at max capacity, so that's, I get that because you were looking at the busiest time of the year on the busiest days. So I do understand that, but there still needs to be a lot more investigation into that side of it. I guess I'm just, because I don't know where to go from this, is other than to kind of state where we feel in reference to these ideas. I think the conversation that, you want to lead the direction on that? I just want Commissioner Robinson, what he mentioned too about the pier, is that we had that factored into part of our budgetary conversations. We were talking about some repairs at the piers and pilings and things of that nature, whatever. I just sort of think that that's kind of, before we're building any magnanimous structures to these things and whatever, we should be looking at the current assets that we have and enhancing them the best that we possibly can. We obviously need parking. I've been no stranger to being a proponent for the pool option. In my personal opinion, again, you can say what you want, but I think that there is a good hybrid version of the pool. I like seeing the pool with the lap lanes for the people that, are the lap swimmers and that. I appreciated seeing that. Also having that fun area for the kids to be in. Agree with Mr. Oblander in reference to, like, that back part could easily, a splash pad could be added to that as opposed to doing, the one thing that your own pool expert says, that having a children's pool and an adult pool separately, so I don't know where that hybrid version looks like it mixes both children into an adult pool. So I don't know if having a splash pad and having those toys out of the main area pool and having a zero entry lot line from a tiki area that's a concession stand into a pool plus laps for more serious swimmers and lap swimmers, and then having a splash pad area for little ones to go about, whatever might be more advantageous to have two separate spaces from a health standpoint that was mentioned earlier. I'm more for simple. The big grand entrance was lovely. I want more parking spaces, and a simple entry into it is, we've already come from not having these things. I'm for what, less is more. Let's make the ADA compliance stuff happen. Let's offer good amenities. Let's keep it simple. Let's add the spaces. We want more spaces up by the pier, because a lot of people go up there and enjoy that too, not just the people at the casino building itself. I think enhancing as much of that as possible. Again, the conversation that we're not having today from my perspective is the financing of it, obviously, or creating more opportunities, not getting rid of the pool as Ms. Just mentioned in the card, but increasing some retail opportunities. We have to decide what we're doing with that upstairs space. It was mentioned by Commissioner Robinson that space has been sitting there for 7 years. That space has been sitting there for 7 years for a variety of reasons, one of which we were in litigation, it was leaking, and our staff has nowhere to go. So instead of us renting out that space, we've been utilizing that space because they don't have any space. So, the needs that we have, let's go back to the needs. Again, addressing our needs. Yes, we need parking. Yes, we need, good idea to Mr. Raphael in reference to enhancing that crosswalk area for that to make it safer. Let's just make it as I'm less about the glitz than I am about the functionality, the cost effectiveness of it. The pool, even though I was asked about the pool cost and the demolition, were minuscule in comparison to all the other items on the agendas there. So I think that we should go back to considering that. And considering it wisely. We can come up with, to be able to have, I love seeing those cabanas that you could have around the pool, in the grassy area around the pool, shaded structures so people with their kids can hang out there. The kids can go run. Adults could have an adult cocktail if they wanted to. Sit there and watch it and rent a chair and a lounge chair, whatever. I like that idea. I think it jives with where the pool could go, and I think when the neighborhood associations got involved with the pool and started attending certain events and things of that nature, they really saw what could be in an antiquated situation, and I think that there would be a resurgence in that based on the hundreds of people that have told me so. Even though they're not currently using the pool, and I understand both sides of the argument. I don't want to get in an argument about that. I'm for that. I think if we could have some more retail applications, I know that you said you didn't think it could be built on, but I was sort of looking for a more horseshoe shaped in regards to the pool area, and as where it was open in the middle with either glass or whatever kind of door structures. I thought you could build up 2 stories, but you have since sent me straight on that you can't build up on the coastal construction line up 2 stories. I had thought that maybe some sort of horseshoe shape could create a new bathrooms, changing rooms, and a 2nd story could maybe house a bridal suite or storage areas for maintenance, or that could be done on the existing in the front there, and then a tiki hut or whatever could be placed on the back side of it. I wish I could draw, but I would draw you my ideas. But they're pretty basic, simple, but address the needs. And I think if you talk to most residents in the community that will be hearing all of these things, they will probably say the same. They want to see improvements. They don't want us to go for the lungs. They want us to look for something that's practical, that addresses all the needs, but creates a future, be able to something to build on, and that we can add to and change up as we go along. But I think from what I've been hearing, that's what I've heard. I'm sure you all have a different idea. Vice Mayor.
I agree with the mayor on everything. I'd like to add a little bit. Why reiterate? You know, I agree with her. In reference to retail, I kind of had the vision of the pop-up tiki huts. You know, the 10 by 10 pop-up tiki huts in different areas that very bohemian, very beach-like, that could pop up and have some of the retail we're missing that would bring additional revenue.
Like beachside kiosks?
Correct. But, you know, tiki style where, you know, it pops up, it's a shop, it's a whatever, and then it closes up whenever. Something as simple as that. That would complement, maybe reaching out to people like Benny's on the Beach for a concession in and around the pool for a pop-up barbecue or cocktails, things like that, that would bring additional revenue. I want to take a moment and thank you guys for the great job. I think you did exactly what you were asked to do. And you did it, and you talked to the people. You know, some of the things, the crosswalks, things like that. It wasn't in the, you know, the pier wasn't in because it's already in our budget that we're talking about things that need to be done on the pier. So that wasn't in your repertoire of things to do. But you know, we're having those conversations. Two things that popped up that I'd like clarification on because I think we're missing some clarification. Anything that we do in and around the beach will always, by law, have the turtle lighting taken into consideration. So if we were to do something up top, it would, just like we do now, it would always have turtle lighting taken into consideration for certain.
On the top of the berm, yes.
Okay.
And on the lower lot, we still have the ability to pass our own turtle ordinance as well.
Absolutely.
Which is part of the consideration of any future undertaking.
And then the other thing that popped up that people tend to be confused on is years ago, way before us, the commission did a deal with Palm Beach County to put in parking. And because of that, we are limited to where we can put residential parking. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And we have always said we could create more residential parking with parking structures and different things, but we're still limited to give a full 100% access to the entire beach because of the deal that the commission made way back when.
Yeah, 613 spaces, if my memory serves me correct, have to be available and accessible to all county residents.
Correct.
And then anything above and beyond that could be dispersed, you know, additional residential parking, additional handicap parking, however we would want to do that.
And then going back to one of the reasons I push for additional parking is the beach is used by county residents. And how cool is it to have the tourists and the county residents offsetting your cost as taxpayers? Because they use your beach, they use your streets, they use your downtowns. You know, you voted for a $42 million bond to fix your roads, but the tourists and county people are using your road. So this is a way of, you know, paying back, giving back to the taxpayers and bringing money back in to offset some of the costs that we have to pay on a daily basis. Thank you.
Commissioner Robinson?
I wish there was a recording of the initial decision to build the casino at the beach.
Yeah, me too.
That would have been.
The mayor and I were sitting out
maybe,
there.
I wasn't here. Maybe a very instructive meeting because it was obviously a decision that was made for the future, critical to Lake Worth, and I think we're at that point again. The devil that we dealt with when we built the present casino was the clock from the county. We were under the gun to spend the money they wanted to give us.
We were going to lose it.
Is that correct?
They were going to cut it out, yeah.
And
we almost lost it twice.
And so consequently, I don't think we made the best business decisions going forward. It is a business, it's an amenity. What I saw tonight was not what I envisioned a draw of a tourist attraction, a destination for Lake Worth, which is what I'd like it to be, including a pool. I would hope that we're going to talk about this specifically sometime soon. I don't know whether in a workshop or designated meeting, or if we're going to have CPZ come back with something else, or what do we do now? We have the pictures and the numbers. Is this it? I hope that it isn't.
This is just the start.
Okay, so
I'm
let's.
anticipating this. Somebody mentioned another meeting. I think it's like a lot more meetings.
Well, but we can. That was how we got into this fix to begin with. Is nobody wanted to make a decision when the county had the money to give us. We put it off and put it off, and then got pushed into decisions. I want to be very mindful and futuristic and financially responsible going forward.
Good job. Commissioner Maxwell?
I think Commissioner Omari was ahead of me.
Commissioner Hardy?
I just wanted to say I wish the public could have seen our architect's face when you said this is just the beginning. There'll be many, many more meetings. I was watching that. That was it was a very interesting facial expression. My question is to you, Juan. The second floor space on the north side of the building, wasn't that supposed to be shared with the first floor tenant on that side of the building? Wasn't there supposed to be some sort of a shared functionality?
No, sir. There was a proposal that came forward during the considerations for the leases originally, and if you remember back, Johnny Longboats presented an idea of occupying both spaces, the anchor on both levels with a stairwell that connected the two, but that wasn't approved as a lease.
Well, the idea didn't stick, but it looks like the design kind of stuck because there's no, there's no kitchen facilities on the second floor.
No, it's built for a restaurant space.
Okay.
That's the intent.
So like someone can add a kitchen up
standalone
there,
or connected to the anchor.
Everything was a vanilla block.
Okay. All right. Cool.
And the kitchen was in the back. The way it's situated is that the kitchen was to be built as an open kitchen in the rear on the
west
side of that space. That place right there was set for an open kitchen on the back side.
Okay.
The way the piping and everything was.
The calendars.
All right. That's it.
Commissioner Maxwell?
Thank you.
Is it your turn now?
I don't know, I'm the only one still lit.
Who's lit?
I don't have a light, so I have to just.
We'll have to get you one for Christmas.
I would like that.
All right.
Peggy?
Peggy's not here.
It's the Fisher light. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for your presentation. Obviously, this is the first conversation of many more to come, I'm sure. This is going to be a very, very big decision to make for the city of Lake Worth. Even bigger, if you will, than the decision that was made to create the existing situation that we have up there. Okay. That was supposed to be a $6 million building and a $5 million parking scheme. That turned into many, 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 many more millions of dollars. And we were warned, but we did it anyway. Here we are, 6 or 7 years removed, and we're trying to figure out a way to fix it financially. And what I've seen, as I said earlier in my comments, not enough emphasis on revenue generation, because that's the whole point of this exercise, was revenue generation. If there was any way on God's green earth that there was any way plausible to save that pool or some sort of a water feature, it has to be about the money. Okay? It has to be about the money. Now, the other point that was brought up and was very well stated by Commissioner Robinson and some others, there was no, that I can see, reference given to the existing assets. The building itself, which currently, to my understanding, still doesn't have a CO, still does not have a certificate of occupancy.
Does it?
No.
Only in America can government break their own rules and get away with it. Okay? And then there's the issue of the pier and Benny's. Now, my understanding, and just over the last several years, and talking to the owners of Benny's and being around when things have been in a repair mode, that we have invested, or the city has invested mega dollars in maintenance on that building. But there was no discussion about what are you going to do about Benny's or the pier or a long-term look at that situation. And frankly, from all I can tell, Benny's has got a, you know, this isn't a plug for Benny's, but they've done a hell of a job up there in terms of how they've grown their business. I mean, it's crazy. I can't go there any day of the week without having to stand in line. So they should be commended for that. But, you know, again, we're not addressing the current issues. Just seems to me that, you know, we went out and put some things together, the consultants did, and we got some feedback, and you know, our first number that we looked at was $14 million. Are you kidding me? $14 million to fix what we already spent? $14 million to fix.
Mistakes are expensive.
To what we, excuse me?
One at a time, please. Commissioner Robinson.
I'm sorry, I
it's
didn't
not
hear.
your-
I'd like him to repeat that so I don't.
Commissioner
he
Robinson, would
might
you
have
like to
something
repeat that?
intelligent.
Mistakes are expensive.
Commissioner Maxwell? Again, we don't go back and forth. I'll make this one exception, but please let's not do it again. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Commissioner Maxwell?
So, you know, we're staring at a minimum possibly of $14 million on top of, in some people's eyes, bad money that's already been spent. Okay. Now, I find it interesting that the beginning of the presentation, there was reference made to sales tax dollars and how that could be leveraged. And it wasn't lost on me that scheme A1 just happened to come out to be just about $18 million to include a pool feature. Okay? I hope this isn't an attempt on somebody's part to throw out a ridiculously high number that will make us all choke, with the idea that if we scale it back, and maybe we would look at a pool in a much different light, just adding a pool feature up there and make a few people happy. I hope that's not what we're talking about here, because the mayor herself kind of spoke to it earlier when she said about, you know, there's a pool, maybe we could do something with the pool.
Well, if you're saying that you think it's me, let me just.
No, I'm not.
I'm just.
I'm just a little cynical. I mean, I've been down this road before,
Right.
on this beachfront, many times. Okay?
Madam Mayor, if I
Please.
may, I don't want to interrupt Commissioner Maxwell. Speaking to Ben about the Bennies specifically, at the outset of the beginning of this entire conversation, even dating back to the first sales tax workshop, they were tasked, and I think there was a lot of consistency among the board, to go after 4 different things at this property. That was the vacant space, that was the address parking, to address the service area, and address the pool.
Traffic was in there too.
Again, part of parking. So Benny's was never at any point discussed as far as tasking CPZ to bring back a design that included Benny's.
Fair
However,
enough.
with that being said, CPZ and I are already engaged in conversations on addressing Benny's as a standalone project. Because yes, Benny's is part of our brand. Benny's has done a phenomenal job of making Lake Worth a destination. And we all probably agree that Benny's as a brand is part of who we're going to be moving forward. So I anticipate at some point in time down the road having a conversation about Benny's, regardless of who owns it. But Lee, who's in the audience, has done a terrific job. Him and Jeremy and the whole crew, we love it. All right, but that wasn't part of the task. So to be fair to CPZ and the project team, that was never coming to the equation. And what you've been presented tonight was the overarching consistency that we heard from feedback. Address the four main things: vacant space, parking, service, and pool. And again, that can go in a lot of different directions, and I think that's what you saw tonight. And it would be irresponsible for me and my team to think tonight you guys were going to come up with the answers, or if we were going to digest all of this, and that wasn't the intent. Obviously, this is important. This has a lot of history, and it warrants more public input. It warrants more workshops. There is no clock on us on when we have to do this. You got, as leaders, you made a monumental decision raising the parking rates. That fixed the beach fund on paper. Now, if the environment treats us well, Mother Nature gives a lot of sunny days, we'll build a fund balance and we can get at some of the things like the pier repairs and whatnot. But moving forward, I think we just need to keep the Benny's conversation and this project on their own tracks and give each one its dual process.
When we walk, I'm sorry, did you have a follow-up?
No, I got a lot more.
Oh, please, continue.
First one, thank you very much for pointing that out. What really tipped me off and to want to make that comment was, and I guess that was part of the service component, when you talked about, you know, reconfiguring, if you will, something in front of Benny's.
Yes, sir.
That's what triggered my thought. So you're absolutely correct, and I apologize to your team because that wasn't the scope of your work. Okay, so
That's fair enough.
I stand corrected. Thank you very much. But it is something we got to deal with. All right. The building itself, though, wasn't addressed, as far as I can tell, in terms of, you know, I don't know if you consider that part of the scope of work. I don't know. But apparently it is, because we talked about how we're going to deal with the second floor. Okay, so.
Here.
The vacant space is what we consider fixing the casino building. Another project that would be coming to you also is the closure and the final payment for the fix of the second floor, you know, of the doors, the whole situation with REG and Morgani.
Do you want to turn it off?
Yeah,
Is that 30 minutes?
Are we in heaven now?
We're in heaven. Do you want another 30 minutes?
Well, do we have a date to continue talking about? Otherwise, for a half an hour at a 8:15, unless the agenda is packed with.
I just have one more comment,
No,
if I may,
I
Mayor.
think we should let everyone finish the conversation. I just don't want it to be a reiteration of the same things over and over again. So make the points, ask the questions, we'll get them, hold on one second, we'll get them answered, one at a time, everyone can go back and forth, let's extend I don't want anyone to feel, I'm not stopping this conversation. This is a conversation that we've needed to have for a long period of time. This is the first one of it, so I'm not trying to stop any conversation, but I want to make sure that this is the process. This is the start of many. We need to reach out to the public again. We need to have these conversations. I'm sure when we leave here, there'll be all kinds of stuff over the internet about $1 million this and what we're doing and what we're supposedly this and whose brother's, uncle's, nephew's son has a pool company that's going to be putting in the new pool and whatever else, and who sold lollipops and is going to sell them there too. So I'm sure it'll all be mapped out on social media, so we'll all find out about that tomorrow. And in the meantime, we need to stomach these plans. We need the truth and the information to get to the general public. We need them to find out, and we need to come together and sit together as a plan. That's the only thing that I was giving my opinion on the plan earlier, simply by saying I think that if we start with the basics and work together with the public and what we know and come together with a good business plan, because the basics have to include a good business plan. As the Vice Mayor Pro Tem said, we've been in the hole for a long time, so we want to make sure that whatever we're adding, if we're adding any bells and whistles, those bells and whistles bring revenue, not just a fun feature, because we already have a great park. Now we need to enhance that to make sure that the business model works and can withstand. Because I don't want to inherit, I don't want the next people to come and inherit what we inherited. So I agree with that, and we have to be sensible and kind of come together on that. Thank you, guys.
And Madam
Vice
Mayor,
Mayor?
if I may finish, just the last point, the sales tax, and my apologies, it wasn't done in intent to make anyone uncomfortable, but I, as overseeing the sales tax projects, I do have to submit a quarterly report to the Oversight Committee of the Palm Beach County League of Cities, and dollars were used to fund this design concept, so it's more of an update of where the funding source came from here. By no means is it an indication of that should be considered for funding for future use, but we don't have to talk about the sales tax.
Okay, we need to have an entire subject about this. I don't want to talk about any revenues other than what is generating revenue for itself when it comes to this fund. Vice Mayor, can you hold off? I stopped the Vice Mayor Pro Tem when he still had a few questions. If you'll excuse me. Thank you.
I also want to go back, Madam Mayor, if you took offense or thought that I was referring to you when I mentioned about backing into a number that would make a pool more palatable, that had nothing to do with you. I just didn't know. I know how things work. I mean, you can always come down on the price, but you can rarely go up.
Right.
So when you start looking at the minimum of the schemes that are presented, when you start peeling away things, once you peel away the bells and whistles that don't draw any revenue, what are you left with? But a pool. Okay, what are you left with but a pool? So please don't take that as a, you know. And the other thing I also want to get at too is, as far as the scope of services are with the consultants, I guess we really need to know at this point where they are, if they have satisfied the scope of work at this point, because Commissioner Hardy earlier was talking about, you know, coming back with some, you know, plug and play type of the ability to move things around. We need to know if there's going to be an additional cost for that, and I'm quite sure there will be. And, you know, so we need to know, you know, what the heck is going on there. And again, I still stand by the original questions I had as far as the components of this project, where they came from. That's very, very important. It's going to be critical, because I do not want to wake up one day when we're starting down that road looking and narrowing down, you know, what we might want to do, and find out that we have offended somebody in the public because their concept was never put to paper, you know, on paper and give it a shot. And then, you know, we're off to the races, as sometimes we often do, when people start sparring with each other over how come, you know, we're going down this road, and the conspiracy theories begin.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
And I don't know that we had consensus to spend more money, especially penny sales tax, to move forward with that. But just in closing, before we break, one, can I make a suggestion that you had somebody mention crossing over from the resident parking, trying to get across. I too have that same problem, and I've seen that, and I think it's an easy fix on the bottom and on the top. If we outline the yellow and put the signs that we have upstairs, downtown, up there, that, you know, slow pedestrian, stop for pedestrian, you know, I think that can be solved easy.
We can definitely take a look at that, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson?
Are we going to end the conversation on this tonight, or are we going to extend the conversation? Are we going to pick a date and have a workshop? And I don't think we need to pay for having the consultants back to listen to us too often. You know.
I'm sure they don't want to.
So, if I can add some clarity, Commissioner Robinson.
I think that what's the next step?
The next step should be that we have another workshop where the public can come out. I'm sure once we have this meeting, we'll have a lot of opinions out there, and people can come and we can have a workshop on talking about some of the different items and fine tune them, and then we'll continue to see how that goes, and have meetings and finalize what we can all come to the table with in regards to introducing something new, or seeing if, I mean, I'd like to spend the whole weekend with this thing and look over it and get, you know, and have I'm sure I'll have a million questions after I go through it all again. But, you know, maybe get those questions answered in some one-on-ones, put together a cohesive plan, find out from the public what their interests would be, and then go back to the consultants after we've addressed everything and have them put together a revised plan based on what we've discussed about it. But that's after talking about revenues. The one thing we didn't discuss, how do we generate the revenue to do that? How can we get paid for this? What are some of the ways in which we can? If there are public-private partnerships involved in any components of it or whatever, does that process work, an RFQ, whatever that may be, and just throw it all out on the table. But we've got some moving parts. They don't need to be privy to that. I think we have our work to do first with the public, and then we can come back to it. But I'm very grateful for what you've done. You walked into a sticky wicket, and I know that that we were all over the place, and it shows because it was from all of us and the community as well. But we need to do that. We need to do that hard work now, and then come back to the professionals to put a comprehensive plan together for it.
And I was
Commissioner Robinson, I'm sorry.
I appreciate being sensitive to everybody's input. There are a lot of good ideas that aren't going to be implemented for one reason or another. So I would hope that it doesn't hinder us in making a decision. That's what we're supposed to do. Putting off any decisions, no decision is worse than just about anything else.
I agree.
Input is good, but we do need to fix to make this its needs fixed, the sooner I'm willing to, if we have to take it to the ballot in March, so be it. Whatever. I don't know where we're going with this, but we need to get there.
I agree, and I don't think we should be afraid to talk about all the things that we need to do. We can't. I know some of these are political footballs out there, and I appreciate Commissioner Robinson, especially you, in regards to this topic, because I know it's been tossed around and I know it gets crazy, but we can't be afraid to address our issues, and we need to be grown-ups and face them and come up with solutions together. And I'm very grateful that you've pushed us to have this conversation. So, and I think every commission meeting he's attended, but we needed to have this first step, and I'm grateful.
It's a failed business plan, and we're here to fix it. We do recognize revenue is tremendously important, but also amenities to a community are not revenue generators. So we need to blend those two things.
Again.
Again,
you're preaching to the choir. We've got to come to a happy medium on all, but I just want to end this conversation with saying, could you reiterate, City Manager, what you said at the very start of the meeting in regards to the charter?
You wrote it down somewhere.
You can't sell the beach.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that everyone at home was aware of the fact that you can't sell the beach, and so we don't have to worry about that tomorrow on social media. Yeah, can we do a press release on that? In the meantime, we shall move on. Thank you all very much for participating. Please let your friends, family, relatives, small furry animals know that we will be having workshops in the upcoming future, and to please watch, hear, listen for those things. We're going to
take a 20-minute break.
Let's take a quick break before we go to the
Consent agenda.
No, we only have.
No, is it consent agenda?
Yeah, there's only one.
No, there's not.
Mike,
Oh,
there's
there
literally
is.
only one thing.
There's two. Okay. All right, we're not going to take a break.
Nice to.
Wait a minute.
I call
Breaks
the
all the
break.
time.
Okay, we're calling a break.
There's literally one item on the consent agenda.
I did it on purpose.
Come on.
There is a presentation. No, there's not. Just consent agenda. Moved by Commissioner Maxwell.
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Motion to adjourn.
No, we've got a city attorney's report,
No, ma'am.
city manager's report.
You cannot sell the beach.
Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Moved by Commissioner Hardy, seconded by Commissioner Robinson. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a beautiful evening. God bless.
I didn't go over.
never ate my
8:45 was
You know what's amazing, though?
good.
The